Okay. Good evening and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting today, Tuesday, December 7, 2021 at 5:39 p.m. May I please have a roll call?
Mayor Stephen B. Grant,
Present.
Vice Mayor Woodrow Hay,
Present.
Commissioner Justin Katz, Commissioner Christina Romulus,
She's in the back room. She'll be here shortly.
Commissioner Ty Penserga.
I am here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right. Would everyone please rise for an invocation by Pastor Rodney Wilkinson of Gospel Fellowship?
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for your goodness and your grace and your kindness. God, it is by your kindness that we are here this evening. And so, Father, we thank you in your word that you admonish us to pray for those that are in authority, those that exercise authority over us. And so, Father, we pray for our legislators, for our commissioners, for our police officers, for our firefighters, all those that you have strategically placed in authority. And we pray that you would bless them and strengthen them and encourage their heart. Father, be in this meeting tonight. God, would you be glorified and honored by all that's said and done. And we give you all the glory and praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
None from me.
All right.
For me,
Is our lobbyist in attendance or?
Yes, sir. And he is going to be running a little bit late from another meeting. So he asked us to go ahead and put us down. I have him under city manager's report.
Okay.
He said that's fine.
All right, excellent.
Prove as presented.
Second. All right. I have a first motion and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Informational items by members of the City Commission. Commissioner Katz, would you like to begin?
Nothing to disclose at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Penserga?
I attended the holiday parade. I just want to thank staff for the hard work that they put in, including the Christmas tree lighting event as well. I'm looking forward to our future years, and I appreciate the commitment to all the series of outdoor events, including the first Friday. So thank you to all of you. I know back-to-back events can be gruesome, so thank you again.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, ditto. I really enjoyed our parade this year and the tree lighting. I also had the opportunity of attending the Veterans Memorial today, the celebration.
Not a celebration. It's not a celebration.
It's not a celebration. It's a recognition and so that we never forget what happened on D-Day, December the 19th.
Pearl Harbor.
Huh?
Pearl Harbor.
Oh, Pearl Harbor. Let me wake up. At the Veterans Park today, we had the opportunity to listen to a young, he was 90 years old, but he was Mr. FDR. He really gave a great speech.
Yeah.
He was very outgoing. And for a moment, he had me fooled. Now, I know that FDR is not alive, but he really played the role very well, and I really enjoyed that. Feeding South Florida has been one of my pet peeves on Thursday mornings, so I continue to do that. And I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, and Feliz Navidad.
Thank you. Commissioner Romulus, do you have anything to disclose?
Sure. I would want to reiterate Commissioner Penserga's comments to our staff. Just had a wonderful experience. And being that it was my last experience as a commissioner of District 3, it was very bittersweet and memorable to know that, over the 6 years I've gone from having both of my babies in diapers to now they can almost kind of leave me. I'm looking around trying to find them on the parade route. So it was a great event, and just want to continue to thank our city. And I would say one of the most amazing parts about that day was just going down Federal Highway and seeing how much the landscape of Boynton Beach has changed over the years as we have gone down that parade route over and over again. And it is, yes, it was our decisions up here that allowed for that to happen, but it is the relentless work of our city staff, our city leadership, our public servants who do the work, who execute the vision that we have up here. And so I do want to make sure I give a heartfelt thank you to our city, our employees, our residents, and every single person who has allowed for the city to get to where it is at this point. On a more, I guess, not so positive note, I know that there were some residents from 500 Ocean who were pretty upset about the parade and their inability to access their building. So I hope that staff was able to resolve that or provide some resolution for the residents.
Yes, PD has reached out to them. I think there may have been some, well, not miscommunication. That one gentleman, they were working with residents and providing ID and letting people ingress, egress. I don't know the details. I haven't been able to follow back with Sergeant Jean, but he did speak with him.
Okay, and I would say not that this perhaps makes the residents feel any better, but I would want to thank our police officers, because in a moment where we have thousands of people going up and down our main corridor and individuals who are normally not from the area or coming from the area, public safety is my #1 concern. And I believe that was their intention as they were very, as they were just very strict about who was going in and out of different places. So again, I understand the inconvenience that it posed on the residents, and I would apologize for that. But again, I do thank our police officers and firefighters as well for the work that they did to keep that event fun and safe for everybody who was in attendance. So thank you, and those are my comments for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, as for myself, November 17th, I attended the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. On the 18th, I attended a special meeting for the Transportation Planning Agency to have a discussion regarding a interim executive director and hiring a agency to look for a new executive director. Nick Urin, who has been the executive director for the past, I think, 8 or 9 years, is stepping down. I attended a meeting with the Boynton Beach Veterans Task Force, and I gave a tour of our new city hall to the Mayor Rameau of Lakai, Haiti. On the November 20th, I attended the Boynton Beach Arts District's Art Walk. On the 22nd, I attended the General Employees Public Pension meeting, and also the Boynton Beach Historical Society's event. Wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully everyone got to eat a lot of turkey and spend time with loved ones. On the 29th, I did a tour of the police department and looked at our real-time crime center. It's something that I was very pleased about with the hope that we are reducing crime through technology. On the 30th, I attended a meeting with our sister city in Rauma, Finland, for economic exchange with our Boca Chamber of Commerce, and we're looking to have quarterly meetings with them to help facilitate the international exchange with our sister city. On a sad note, on December 1st, I attended a Mothers Against Drunk Driving event here held at our city hall. It was saddening to see all the people that have been lost through impaired drivers in Palm Beach County. And that is why we are stepping up the process, are stepping up the funding in order to do what we can so that we have our Vision Zero. On December 2nd, I attended a meeting with Neurobehavioral Hospital, who bought the Watershed building over in Quantum Park. And so they are bringing a mental health hospital to Boynton Beach, which is more of a go-between between waiting for a psychologist or calling 211 and getting Baker acted. So this is something that we know in Boynton Beach, mental health is a key component, but the aspect of being Baker Act does not necessarily provide a resolution to someone who is considering hurting themselves. On the 3rd, I attended the tree lighting, and I thought it was a great event to see so much of the community there. I did attend a couple of the art displays, and we need to make sure that we give them lights so that people can see. It gets a little bit dark too early, and I know that also I believe our Arts and Cultural Center has a new showcase, and so I want to make sure that we are promoting that, because I didn't see too many people walking into our Arts and Cultural.
There were quite a few.
Oh,
yeah.
good. As for the parade, I thought it was very well attended. I want to thank staff for all the hard work that they did. There was a lot of moving pieces, and just to echo Commissioner Romulus's comments regarding 4th Street, that if we're blocking that off, we need to let people know ahead of time as well. Yesterday, I attended a meeting with the Transportation Planning Agency to discuss transportation surtax when the infrastructure surtax ends. And this morning, I was the keynote speaker for the Pearl Harbor Remembrance 80th and the 77th of the Battle of the Bulge. I want to thank the Parks and Rec staff for having a very well positioned out event. And I'd just like to remind the staff that we do need porta potties because we can't rely on all of our World War II veterans to hold it for the 2 hours. This afternoon, along with the commission, we attended, had the special commission meeting for the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and I'm very excited about the process that we are going through to vet all of the partners that the city will have to help make a better Boynton Beach. And this evening, I'm going to be leaving a little bit early. I was awarded the Global Statesman by the United States Global Leadership Coalition. And so I will be speaking with, I believe it was Madeleine Albright, a couple of different admirals, generals, mayors from around the country, discuss sustainability and resiliency here that we have in Boynton Beach.
Congratulations, Mayor.
And so with no further informational items, forgot to mention a walk-on item. I have a proclamation for Connect to Greatness Day that I'd like to put on for 3D.
So move as amended. The
Thank
agenda.
you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Our city manager will introduce our new directors of utilities, Poonam Kalkat.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an exciting week. We had Poonam Kalkat, who is now serving as our utilities director. Come on up, Poonam. She came to us from West Palm Beach. She had served the utility there since 2008. Most recently as their director of it's a utility with over 300 employees and over $112 million budget. Most impressively is Poonam has her Master's of Science in Physiology and Biophysics and her PhD in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. That's intimidating. No, it's not at all. It's amazing. So I worked hard on getting Poonam to come join us, and I'm just grateful to have you here. She's hit the ground running. Staff welcomed her with open arms. You know, they do all their finding out what the scoop is here and there, and heard nothing but accolades about her. So welcome, and we know you're going to provide the much needed leadership and mentoring in our utilities as well as the rest of our city. Poonam, and if you just want to say a couple words.
Thank you very much. I appreciate Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, Assistant City Manager. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm really looking forward. You have a great team here already. From just the 2 days, people I've talked to, there's really, really know their job, do it well, and want to serve the city of Boynton Beach residents as best as they can. They are looking for some help in mentoring, leadership, and just moving projects forward. So we'll continue doing that. We have staffing that we need to bring on and projects that need to go. And I think we are all hitting the ground running, and they've all been in my office and I've been in their offices, and feels like I've always been there. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Comment.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Puran, it's great to have you on board. I'm sure you will be a great asset to us, okay? But one question, I know Mayor Keith James personally, how did you get away from him?
He did say in my farewell that he's going to ask Boynton Beach to send him a thank you card.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
If I may, I'm probably jumping the gun here, but I'm going to commend our city manager in advance of her evaluation tonight, because this makes two people that she's pulled from West Palm Beach. So now we've got Mario and we've got Poonam. Yes, so it's it's just really great that we have a city that is attracting such great talent from all over to work and make our city even better. So Poonam, welcome. I don't know if you remember me. You do remember me. Okay, so we've had interactions prior to this, and I know that just from those conversations that Poonam's a great individual and she's going to be an amazing utilities director. So welcome aboard and thank you.
Next, we'll hear a report on Florida Atlantic University Entrepreneurs Open House by Jessica Beaver, Associate Director, Florida Atlantic University Tech Runway. And is she appearing virtually?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Hold on, let me get my notes up really quick. I want to make sure I'm covering everything. So good evening, Mayor Grant, Vice Mayor Hay, City Commissioners, and everyone in attendance. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide an update on the innovation space and our efforts to bring entrepreneurial services and resources to the community. I have 3 updates I will be presenting on. The first, which is the innovation space. We are in the final stages of prepping the space and are gearing up to open and promote the space beginning at the beginning of the new year, if not the end of this year. We're currently working closely with the City of Boynton's IT department to bring password protected Wi-Fi into the space. We are also continuing to work closely with the city's administration, facilities, and security departments to finalize processes such as obtaining key cards, reserving conference rooms, emergency numbers, etc., for both our team and our occupants when they're in the facility. Signage is being finalized by FAU Design and Construction and will be run by the city to ensure compliance and to schedule installation. And finally, our project manager is organizing the move of our modular desks, chairs, and other items into the innovation space. I literally just received word today that this has been scheduled for a week, if not 2, from this month or from today. And the PM will be coordinating with the city to complete this move. In addition, we have additional pieces of furniture on back order due to the supply chain issues that are internationally, being impacted internationally. And we will share the delivery date of these pieces once we receive the information from our vendor. And before I move on to the next update, I do want to thank the City of Boynton's fantastic employees. We have been in contact with them weekly, multiple times a week. We've had meetings regularly with them, and they have been wonderful. So I just want to thank them for everything. Moving on to our next update, our Entrepreneurs Open House. This was a massive success. This occurred during Global Entrepreneurship Week, which was the first week of November, and FAU Tech Runway and the City of Boynton co-hosted this open house, which was a free event to highlight the programs and resources that both FAU and the City of Boynton provide to small businesses and the entrepreneurial community at large. FAU showcased the Tech Runway program, Adams Center for Entrepreneurship, FAU Wave, a market validation program, and the SBDC at FAU. while the city of Boynton introduced the community to their phenomenal makerspace, the Creative Edge Studios, and brought out their very cool Oculus virtual reality goggles. So the public got to play with those cool VR goggles. Over 185 people RSVP'd for this event, and close to 100 people attended. And this is huge for a free event, especially during Global Entrepreneurship Week, when there were a bunch of other events occurring throughout the region on the same day and the same time. Also, as Veterans Day was the day after this event, we had a number of veterans, both as entrepreneurs and as business professionals who were looking for a way to give back to the community, and we were able to acknowledge and thank them for their service. The feedback from the attendees has been extremely positive, and we continue to receive requests for more information from attendees of this event. And before I move on to the final update, I do want to give a specific shout out to Jay in security and John Durgan with your economic development team, as both spent a number of hours before the event and after the event breaking down and setting up. So we just appreciate their assistance with this because it was a pretty heavy lift. So the final update I'd like to present is the upcoming programming for the spring 2022. We're thrilled to announce the following will be occurring on site in the community rooms of the beautiful town hall. Dates and registration details and links will be shared with all in the coming weeks. So in no particular order, we have an entrepreneurs boot camp, which is going to be taught by Dr. Kevin Cox of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. This is an 8-week, 24-hour certificate course. We also have a market validation program, which is a 4-week certificate course. In addition, we have 2 commercialization seminars, which Boynton Beach will serve as a hybrid virtual location for. Additional programming is most likely going to be added to the spring calendar as we continue to build it out, but these 4 programs have been confirmed. In addition, we are in the process of creating service packages for the longer programs, such as the boot camp and the market validation program I just mentioned. This will give participants not only the boot camp and the market validation program, but also access to the co-working space, online platforms, and additional resources and services to help them continue building their businesses. And finally, we are working with Mr. David Scott and Mr. John Durgan with your economic development team to figure out a way to provide scholarships and or discounts to low to moderate income individuals and those located within Boynton Beach for those more intense programs. So I'd just like to thank the City Commission again for allowing me to provide an update on the progress, and we are looking forward to a really great 2022. And I'm happy to answer any questions or just say goodnight for the evening and see you guys soon.
Any questions from the commission? No, thank you so much, Jessica, for the work you're doing, and we look forward to seeing the great stuff. And so your next open house, please let us know.
Definitely will. Thank you, everyone.
And last, we have announcement of the 50th Annual Holiday Parade Awards by Gabrielle Favetta, Events Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to take over for Gabby. She lost her voice this weekend. So she's going to help distribute the plaques. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Eleanor Crucell, Marketing and Events Director. This year's parade, the 50th one, had 60 entries and a total of 1,843 participants, making it the largest city holiday parade to date. Mayor, if I could just take a moment to thank all of the city departments. There's 16 departments and every one of them played a role in the success of this event. And I also want to thank those volunteers that on their own time, our city employees on their own time volunteered. So my heartfelt thanks to those. Tonight it's my pleasure to announce the category winners of the 50th Holiday Parade. And before I begin, I'd like to thank the judges, Randall Gill, who is president of our Boynton Beach Historical Society, Marcia Levine, who is chair of the Library Board and member of our Art Advisory Board, Reverend Pastor Parker, pastor of First Methodist United Church, and Dwayne Holt, who is a world famous DJ, painter and sculptor. And without further ado, we will begin with our first award, and that is the Best Musical Performance. This was, the criteria was level of liveliness, engagement with the crowd, and an energy of musical performance. And the judges, selected Palm Beach Lakes High School. some that are joining on Zoom. Do you see any?
We don't have the raise hand function. Yuri, can you allow that?
You can, right?
All right.
The
So,
raise hand function is now.
all right. And ask questions as well if they have issue with that.
Okay.
That is also an M.
The next award is for use of innovation and/or technology. And the criteria was how well did the participants incorporate technical elements into their entries? And present today are the winners, the Royal DJs. Afterwards, we'll let the mayor, yeah. The mayor will take a picture with you when we have them. Okay. He's going to come down. Then he can stay down for the next.
Oh.
The mayor. Christine's got to get a lipstick. He is the fun guy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. Most artistic design is the level of artistic display, and this year goes to Diamonds and Pearls. Mine. The next award is the display of whimsical, fantasy, and imagination, and the overall use of these elements went to the Sounds of Success. Of life in Boynton Beach, and that is how well the entry represented life in Boynton Beach, and that went to our Boynton Bulldogs.
I believe we have some Bulldogs here.
Great. Come on up.
To your team. All right.
Yeah. Yes.
Picture. Thank you. Entertainment and showmanship. This involves a level of entertainment, the theatrical presentation or performance, and that goes to the Boynton Beach High School Band. You accept that?
Stay down there, man.
Mr. Barfield was also a nominee for the Grand Marshal, weren't you?
You were.
Listen, man.
Also, thanks to you for performing at the tree ceremony. We appreciate your support. Most creative is uniqueness, element of creativity, and that goes to the Delray Divas.
I love it.
Excellent. Last award is the Mayor's Choice Award, and selected by Mayor Stephen B. Grant is Congress Middle School Cougar Band and Congress Middle School Majorettes.
Awesome. Wow.
That is a traveling trophy that goes to the winner of the Mayor's Award every year. So we, there you go. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. And we have one more award to present, but this decision is up to the public. Starting on Wednesday, December 8th, the community will be asked to vote for their favorite parade entry via the Facebook album online or by calling 561-742-6017 or emailing marketing@bbfl.us. The contest will run through Monday, December 20th at 12 noon. Votes will be tallied and announced on December 20th, and the winning entry will be notified and awarded the People's Choice Trophy by the mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Next, we have a City of Boynton Beach proclamation. Whereas Connect to Greatness, Inc. affords an opportunity to ignite the curiosity and creativity of African-American Black boys and empower them to reimagine their lives personally, socially, and academically with an innovative mindset. And whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all of our citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers of equality for minority groups, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and inequity that tends to impact young African-American Black boys at a higher rate. And whereas we recognize and acclaim the work of Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus and Andre Thaddeus as a dedicated parents of young African-American young men who saw a need in the community to empower young African-American Black boys. Their continued determination to improve their perception, access, and opportunities for young African-American Black boys is exemplary. Whereas Connect to Greatness, Inc., in addition to supporting African-American boys in the city of Boynton Beach and surrounding areas through the enriching programs and mentoring, they provide a highly praised holistic curriculum for the boys' moms called the Women of Boys Empowerment Program. Whereas as we journey toward a more united nation, let us use this commemoration of Connect to Greatness, Inc. to serve as a vehicle that's meeting the needs for more meaningful programs and shared commitments to actions that uplift and empower all. Now, therefore, I, Stephen B. Grant, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, to recognize that December 17, 2021 as Connect to Greatness, Inc. Day. And I urge residents to join together in this period of rededication of the principles of justice, equity, and equality for all people. And do we have Cassandra and Andre here to accept the proclamation?
Well, on behalf of our Connect to Greatness, Inc., I'd like to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, city commissioners, city manager. We really appreciate the recognition for the work we've done And it's just hard to believe it's been 5 years, a couple months ago, from the first time we started here in the city of Boynton Beach, meeting Mayor Grant, and the things that have transpired for the past 5 years has been remarkable. The great citizens of Boynton Beach, the school systems, both from elementary all the way now up to the high school. It's just been a very inspirational journey for us to be able to give back in a way that really exemplifies some of our beliefs and also the courage that a lot of these young boys do have in the city of Boynton Beach, as well as the other communities around our area. So we would just like to thank you guys again, and we look forward to continue the work. And we just, whatever we think we can do to help this community and help our young Black African-American boys, we'll continue steadfast and keep it going.
I don't have a lot to add to that. I just want to say thank you to Mayor Grant and all of the commissioners here. This was literally a thought and a vision. And Mayor Grant, I tapped him on the shoulder one day at a meeting and told him I would be following up when I had the vision like fully realized. And he kind of looked at me like, okay, yeah, whatever, right? And so, and I actually made good on my promise and he made good on his. And so I just want to say thank you so much for continuing to believe in the work that we're doing, and everyone here, for Lori, everyone just really being a part of the process and a partnership and just continuing to help us dream big for our boys. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, I just want to add that aspect of, you pointing out that there's a need in the city. And rather than just saying that there's a need in the city, you said, okay, well, how are we going to fix that need? And so I appreciate that with the young men. And then when Andre, we had that Zoom chat back in June of 2020, it's saying what's wrong, because we can't let this happen again. And, we started having the realization that, Juneteenth is a holiday, and a year later now it's a federal holiday. And so that's the realization that we're here together and we need to work together. So I appreciate what you're doing for the community. Seeing no further announcements, we will move on to public audience. Individual speakers will be limited to a 3-minute presentation. Please state your name and address for the record.
Looks like I'm not the only one that's hot. Could we have, okay. Got it.
Hi, good evening again. Annette Gray, GBDC Entrepreneurship Institute, 1500 Great Way Boulevard. I just wanted to take a moment to invite all the members of the commission and the audience and citizens at home to the GBDC Holiday Carnival. So some of you know that it's maybe about a year ago, during COVID, we all had to pivot and look for the greater needs in the community as organizations. And in January, I reached out to the Homeless Coalition and I said, what are we doing during this great time of need for the homeless? And there was a great deal of fear around it and a great deal of discussions around it. And if you've met me, I decided to have a Love Your Homeless Valentine's Day event. And I just went out and did it. And I did it with the support of some of you here at the commission and our fire department, our police department. And we've decided to continue that tradition. And so for our holiday, we will have our homeless outreach. It'll be from 2 to 6 p.m. The components are the same. They will receive a shower. They'll be able to do their laundry, get a haircut. We have a clothing drive, resume assistance, music, a hot meal, and a Christmas present. And who doesn't want that? Later in the afternoon, and because at the end of the day, we're about developing youth and supporting youth globally, we decided to adopt teenagers because there's a lot of gift giving, Toys for Tots, for the younger participants and families in the community. And so we are going to be giving out Christmas presents to nominated and registered youth ages 12 to 18. We'll wrap the evening up with a drive-in movie. If everybody is welcome, as long as parking is available. We will have the event at Ascension Lutheran Church at 2929 South Seacrest Boulevard. And because we're dealing with the homeless population, we have gotten bus tickets purchased so that they can get to the event and back to their respective places. And the bus stop is number 6343, Route 47, and that drops them right in front of the church. And so if you know the church, it's on Seacrest, just on the border, just after the hospital, just south of the hospital. So if you know a family that has teenagers that could use an extra gift, please reach out to us at our website, www.gbdcei.org, or email me or call me, and please come out and help us celebrate and support these audiences. Thank you.
Annette, do you have a sponsor for your mobile shower yet?
Oh, I would love one.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
And do you have the laundry as well? The
I
mobile
have the
laundry?
laundry and the shower coming again.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening. Happy holidays to everybody. Iman Kareem, 214 Northeast 3rd Street. I'm coming here with ABPAC. You guys all know me. This will be our 4th year of doing February 21st, International Mother Language Day, International Freedom Fighting Day. And I'm welcoming all of you guys to come attend. I've asked Justin many times. Hopefully he'll come this year. Along Ty, please make it. This year is going to be a blockbuster event because the mayors of Green Acres, Riviera Beach, Belglaze, Pahokee, South Bay, and their commissioners and all them are attending, along with Boca, to celebrate this International Mother Language Day. We do appreciate Boynton Beach recognizing it as a holiday 3 years ago when we got the proclamation. And I am asking, since this is a free event and is held at the city of Boynton Beach, if the marketing department could help us market this to the community, so then they're all aware that this is going to happen on February 20th at Sarah Sims Park. It'll be a great help for us to promote this event, since it's going to be free. We'll have music, we'll have bounce house for the kids, food available, and I believe it falls under your district, Mr. Woodrow, and if you could help us with that. And I'm also requesting that if we could make a decision on the next meeting, yes or no, if we're going to do the show at Minar in City of Boynton Beach. If not, then I will look for other places in Green Acres, Riviera Beach, or to be the first UNESCO certified monument. It's okay if you guys don't want to do it. I just need to know. I've been asking you guys for 3 years, so hopefully you guys could give me a real answer and vote on it, and we can move forward, But I'm going to continue this event, and I'm asking everybody come and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. And before you leave, I'd ask you to put that request in writing, and then we'll have a discussion at the commission.
The request for the marketing and also the request for the vote?
I would say both.
Okay, sure. I will put that in writing and send it to you guys. And if I don't see you, then enjoy your holidays and Happy New Year.
Mayor.
Yeah.
And just to respond to that, it's my birthday on February 19th, so I am rarely in town on that weekend. It's also President's Day typically. So take no offense to my lack of.
No worries. Your plaque is still waiting in my desk.
And I'll also remind people who are attending online to raise your hand or to ask a question. Now is the time for public comments.
Hi, Ernest McNally, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach. It's a few blocks north of here on the right. I purchased the home there in November of 2020, and I'm a full-time resident here. I don't know if anybody in the audience or on the dais here realizes that I'm gonna get involved in city politics for a lot of reasons. I moved here and never expected to want to or feel like I need to get so involved. But here I am. I come from New York, New Jersey, where we learn about public corruption, crime, everything. It's the melting place in the United States. It's where law schools write books about crime and corruption, New Jersey and New York. And so I had 72 years there, and now I'm 73 and I'm here, and I'm starting to see some things here that I'd like to work on. I don't think I'm going to get to work on them until after this group is timed out. I think the mayor and 2 people on the dais. I'm hoping the city attorney firm won't be here, and that in March, when you start fresh, maybe we'll get some more receptive people. I'd like to comment that I think the outright discrimination over the choice of holiday decorations in this city should be investigated. It's probably going to wind up like other lawsuits you've had where you've discriminated against firemen and police. You've paid settlements. You don't want to go to court. You don't want to be exposed for what you've done. But for you to take holiday decorations from certain decorations and not others for no reason, I think you should be held accountable for that. And what do I mean? You all know since November and December, I've been trying to donate a $1,500 nativity scene to this city, and you refuse. You refuse to talk to me. You refuse to accept it. And the Supreme Court has ruled that menorahs, Kwanzaa, nativity scenes, and trees are decorations. They are not religious statements by a city or a municipality. And therefore, for you to choose certain ones and not others, and then to take what's supposed to be a Christmas tree and you put a fish on top, you know, you could keep shaking your head, Mayor, because you're leaving here. You don't care. But all the lawsuits that you've been involved or caused, you know, we have to pay it. You may think it's funny. What are you talking? Like you don't know what the fireman, what you did to that lady, ripped her black face off? That's under your time. What are you, surprised?
Is there anyone else that would like to follow? Sorry. If not, we will end public comments, and I'll request, then we'll move on to administrative. I've requested to distribute $200 of community support funds to the Boynton Beach Historical Society.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. I believe we do have Randall Gill online. Jury, if you can open up the hand raising and the questions. I know that some people would like to speak.
Okay, I've reactivated that and Randall Gill is unmuted.
All right, Randall, you're self-muted right now. If you'd like to unmute, you could make some comments.
Hello,
Yes.
good evening, Mayor Grant and commissioners and all of the city leaders. I certainly appreciate everything that you're doing, and I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
I really appreciated the 50th holiday parade, and I attended parades for over 30 years in Boynton Beach, and I think that's one of the best parades that you've ever had here in this city. And that's historical because I represent the Historical Society as the president. We're very happy to present educational programs and special events so that we might learn from the past and that we might be able to plan better for the future. So we're always growing. We appreciate your support in attending different events and the support of the people in the city who understand that we have a rich heritage here in Boynton Beach. I know that people that come and visit say they just really like so many of the things that are going on that are very positive here. This January 15th, we are working with the Boynton Women's Club to have the 3rd annual Florida Highwaymen Show held at our new cultural center, the old high school. And that's just a thrilling moment for us, because that's been a dream of mine, to see something like this, to bring the legendary Hall of Fame artists, African Americans who have been through so much but achieved greatness through their art, to be present with us here in Boynton Beach. And I appreciate all the support that the city has given to us and the wonderful help from the staff. So thank you, and I just want to thank you for your support.
Thank you, Randall. No, it's you that helps keep history alive, and so we appreciate you, documenting what has happened here in the city of Boynton Beach.
Thank you.
Yeah. Item 5B is appoint eligible members to the community to serve in vacant positions on city advisory boards. All right. Our first applicant is for the Art Advisory Board. Commissioner Pensurga, you have the nomination.
I do. I'd like to nominate Gregory Hartman to the Arts Advisory Board. From what I've read, he brings with him a background in animation, motion graphics designer, which will be a fresh addition to the Arts Board.
Second,
Motion.
Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have 2 regular and 2 alternates available for the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We have 1 student voting and 1 student non-voting for the Education Youth Advisory Board. We have 1 applicant for the Historic Resources Preservation Board.
I'd like to nominate Tiffany Crump.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have 2 alternate positions available for the Library Board, and we have 2 alternate applicants for 2 applicants for 2 alternate positions. Vice Mayor Hay.
I'd like to nominate Godfrey Campbell,
Jeffrey Campbell.
for the Recreation and Parks Board.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Nominate Dan Winters Sr.
Second.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. I'd like to move up items 9A and 10A before the consent agenda, if that's possible with the commission's approval.
1 second.
That would be our city lobbyist, Matt Forrest, to present, and the commission to establish a policy for use of the textile recycling revenues.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Matt, you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. For the record, Matt Forrest with Ballard Partners representing the city of Boynton Beach. It's nice to be in Boynton, back from Tallahassee. I'm here to give you guys a quick legislative update of where things are, and basically where we're at is the calm before the storm. We have wrapped up the 6 pre-session committee weeks. Legislation can still continue to get filed as we march towards the January 11th session for 2022. Dates, I think, are always important, put them on the calendar. But I work more in how many more working days do we have to get certain things done? So I think it's always important to kind of count those up. Luckily, technology makes it easy for me and reminders pop up on my computer all the time. As we stand here today, we are 34 days until the start of the session. And obviously we have some major holidays in between there. A lot of people be taking time off. So in the next 34 days, this is when things will get ready for the next session which starts in January of 2022. But more importantly, it ends March 11th of 2022, and there's only 94 days until that date. And so that is the 2022 session. I always think that's important to remind people when we say what's going to happen next year, what's going to happen during that year, what's going to happen during that session. What we're talking about is the next 94 days. That is when Tallahassee will wrap up, and we won't go back again until after the November 2022 elections. So there's a lot that's going to happen in Tallahassee in the next 94 days, and luckily you guys are engaged and involved and ready, and I think it's going to be a good session for that. As we go into the session, we're currently sitting at about 1,026 bills that have been filed for consideration, and we're not done yet. So a lot more bills will get filed between now and when the session starts. The deadline to actually file a bill is January 11th. I always remind you, this is the time where it feels like the sky is falling, because there's no shortage of sometimes you think really crazy bad ideas that get filed. Just remember that the poor life expectancy of a little bill, what School of Rocks didn't tell you, is only about 8 to 12% of those little guys on the steps actually make it to the governor's desk and get signed. So a lot of things are going to get filed in the next 30 days. It's important to stay engaged and involved with all of them. At the same time, most of them don't make it across the line, and very few make it across the line in the exact same form that they are filed. So the amendatory process is very key to what we do up in Tallahassee.
Matt, you're forgetting to account that we live in Florida.
I'm not saying there won't be some that get across the line, but I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. There have been obviously some significant bills that have been filed already, and I'm going to tell you guys about them in 1 second. But I always like to tell people too, this is also the worst setting possible to dive into legislation and really start diving into it. All of you know me very well. The beauty of having me as your state lobbyist is also I live right up the road. I live in West Palm Beach. Now for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I am mostly around here as well. Love to get together for coffee, lunch, whatever you want. As we dive into things, I'm going to get you a report probably in about a week or so, now that we're out of Tallahassee and things are kind of at a slower point. Because a lot of times when you write things up, as you guys know, the shelf life of anything I write you is pretty short, because once it's amended, it goes from there. But we'll dive into it. If you have questions or issues, obviously continue to talk to your staff and talk to me. With that said, I have worked extensively with the staff for the last few months, and we have filed 5 appropriation requests for the city that we will be pushing in Tallahassee this year. I'll go through them real quick, but I really got to stress to you how much your staff puts into these efforts. We're down to 5. We start talking them with dozens. We start meeting with them over the summer, because it's really not just this isn't a handout. This isn't a charity case. This is what compelling projects do we have in the city of Boynton Beach that we think other people in the state of Florida, in our area, in our region, should be contributing their tax dollars to. Again, this is a drawdown. So it's really important that we put together projects that we think have compelling state interests. And it's, of course, a very extensive process. Just to get the application filled out requires a lot of staff time. So thanks to your city staff. With their assistance, we have filed 5 requests. One, a $669,000 request for a public safety mobile command center, $500,000 for Chapel Hill neighborhood drainage improvements for design and permitting, $1.1 million for utilities water quality laboratory, and $1.7 million for City of Boynton Beach radio tower repairs and reinstallment, and $705,000 for a regional crime prevention strategy. I'll have more details on all those projects if you're not aware of all the details of them in the report that I give you. But thanks again to your staff for putting that stuff together. The 2 bills I want to put on your radar to make sure you know that we're engaged in them, is because you're going to hear about them through the League of Cities. One is SB 620 and HB 569. In the Senate, that bill is called local government. In the House, it has a much more appropriately named title. It's called HB 569, Business Damages Caused by Local Governments. Basically what it is it is a bill that proposes a cause of action for any landowner or business owner within the city that has been in business for at least 3 years. If the city passes an ordinance or a charter amendment, any action that the city takes that reduces their income by at least 15%, the business has a cause of action to take the city to court, and the city can be held responsible for the damages, and also in addition to that, the attorney fees that go along with it. Obviously, it's a very broad bill. Things such as changing hours of operation could be seen as detrimental to business. The bill has had one meeting so far in the Senate where it passed on party line votes, 7-4, and it was heavily, heavily debated. A lot of the opponents pointed out all the different ways that this could blow up and go the wrong direction. All of the proponents, though, also chambers of commerce and associated industries and other business groups have all pointed out examples where local governments have passed ordinances that essentially put certain businesses that were in office one day or in business one day out the next day. This bill will continue to be heavily debated throughout session this year. I do think there'll be changes and amendments that come to it. We are engaged on it. The League of Cities is engaged on it. Florida Association of Counties is engaged on it. We will be looking and working with your staff so to make sure that your delegation knows exactly how something like this could impact the city of Boynton Beach. I think that's always the important thing that you bring to the table, and not just joining the chorus of the League of Cities, but pointing out exactly how it impacts Boynton Beach. And we'll stay involved in this throughout the entire session. The next bill of significance, very similar to this, and it gets kind of painted in the same brush, these two really bad local government bills. And what this bill is trying to do, though, whether it gets there or not, I cannot say, but I do know the proponents of the bill have pushed it as a way to hopefully alleviate the need for state government to preempt, or at least hear all these preemption bills every single session. SB 280 and HB 403 is called, both relate to local ordinances. And the goal of this legislation is to basically put into place at the local level, local government level, the same requirements that the state has at the agency level. And the state agencies go through the rulemaking process before they can pass a rule that's going to be binding throughout, whether it's Department of Business and Professional Regulation or DOT, whatever is going on in the rulemaking process, they have to go through with the CERC process and basically make a compelling reason why these rules should be in place. And most importantly, do an economic impact study on the rules that they're passing. What this bill proposes to do is to do that at the local level. Before local governments can pass ordinances or city charters, things that are going to amend their code, they need to do a business impact statement in addition to a few other things that they've moved forward along with the ordinance. Now, the bill is very specific on exactly what must be in that impact statement. And again, this is not the setting. I could be here all night and hijack your meeting. I don't want to do that. But most importantly, what it does is it also gives a court the things it must look at when it's ruling on whether a city, whether a business has been violated because of this. The bill says it establishes a series of factors for courts to consider when determining an ordinance is arbitrary or unreasonable, including but not limited to the extent to which the ordinance protects the health, welfare, safety, and quality of life of residents, the impact of the ordinance on personal rights and privileges, the total economic impact of the ordinance, and the business impact statement, exactly what the city prepared. So I think this bill will also continue to move throughout session. I think it'll continue to get, watered down, fine-tuned so that cities can live within the means of it. At the same time, maybe this is the solution to avoid every single year more preemption legislation in Tallahassee by putting in a new process for which locals pass their ordinances. So
You don't think they'll find something different?
That's the goal, at least. I know of this. So those are the two big ones, the marquee matches, if you will. Other two ones I wanted to put on your radar. Short-term rentals is back again. It hasn't passed the last few years, but I know it's important to this area. That'll be back. And of course, more legislation regarding sober homes, moving that needle a little further on what's exactly required from there. Those are the only four I want to dive in tonight. I'm more than happy to answer questions now on anything else you'd like to talk about.
I'll just hopefully have coffee with you in one of our new coffee shops. But it's sovereign immunity. Is there a bill that increases the sovereign immunity on cities?
There is, not only the cities, but also, I believe, state agencies. I think it raises it to 300,000 and builds in a cost of living adjustment, I think, every year from that. But
that's not terrible, though.
Don't quote me on that one yet.
Okay. And so I'll let the commission, if they have any. Oh, and did we get anywhere with legislative annexation of the septic tanks to the west of us?
Lori and I have we've talked about the city manager and I have chatted about that. There's no legislation specific to that topic. There are obviously tools in the toolbox already when it comes to annexation, especially when it comes to enclaves. But as of right now, there is no legislation pending or filed in Tallahassee that I've seen that would change the current tools that you have right now for annexation.
Okay. No, that was the tool, was legislative annexation, where the state says, yes, you're part of the city, so that they get rid of their septic tanks.
I'm not aware of that one. No.
Yeah. But, okay. Any other comments, questions by the commission?
Mayor,
Yes.
just a brief technical question for Mr. Forrest here. When you submit an appropriations request, that has a sponsor just like any other bill. How is it decided who the sponsor is?
We,
Is it
actually,
possible for us to specify who that sponsor is?
yeah, normally, so yes, you can, but you can't specify. You can ask them. It's just like a piece of legislation. They're putting their name on it and filing it for you. Yours have been all sponsored by Representative Casello, who is usually you go to the person that represents that area because of the vacancy that will be open in District 88. He is you have two representatives usually that cover areas in the city. And because District 88 will be open during session, Representative Casello agreed to file all of them for us.
All right, thank you.
Normally, we're a little more diverse. Normally, we get multiple people to file certain things, but because you will have a gap there this year, he put his name on all of them.
All right, I look forward to your report and chatting with you.
I'll take you up on your coffee offer as well.
Thank you very much.
The commission thank you, Matt, by consensus, approve what was in your backup, the legislative priorities list. And this gives us the authority when we get the emails and the communications from the league saying, contact your House representative today, they're going into committee, that we just have the authority of to act on behalf of the commission, to respond to some of those requests as these things move through.
No move.
Second.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And so 10A, authorize the commission to establish a policy for use of the textile recycling revenues for community support funds. I believe we're, if I'm not mistaken, entitled for around 20,000 a year. Mara, if you want to give me the numbers correct.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mara Fredrickson, Director of Financial Services. Right now, the current contract, we're receiving about $20,000 a year.
And so I would like to state that we increase the community support funds from each commission or mayor from 2,000 to 4,000, with 10,000 of that money coming from textile recycling revenues.
So move.
Mayor,
Yes.
if the balance is there, I'd like to increase that to just a uneven 5, if the commission would be okay with that.
And so we would be taking 15,000. All right. So Commissioner Pensurga, would you amend your motion?
Yes, I amend the motion.
Okay.
Would that be effective immediately?
I would hope so.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
I'll be voting against this, not in any particular disdain for those voting for it, but I just, I've developed a fundamental concern relative to stories from other cities that I heard, and this is by no means anything close to the stories about funds allocated to elected officials, but I just fundamentally am not a supporter of this, in favor of some sort of budgetary process that allows the commission to bring something forward. So no hard feelings, but I will be voting against it.
I would just say, outside of the money that you're getting from the textile recycling, we would have to bring a budget amendment back before you to take that out of your fund balance.
And I guess also this is in effect, the additional funding, as long as the textile contract is in effect.
Yes.
Fair enough to say. Okay.
And my comment is that was kind of how I helped support Connect to Greatness 5 years ago, to get a little bit more involved with the city, getting the recognition, coming to the city commission meetings, kind of like letting people know of our longtime nonprofits like the Historical Society with their upcoming Highwaymen exhibition at our Arts and Cultural Center. So I think it's allowing the nonprofits to use city facilities is definitely advantageous for the taxpayers.
Agreed.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. All those opposed? No. Motion passes 4-1. Next, we're back to consent agenda under 100,000. Would anyone like to pull any of the items
thought we just consent agenda.
Skipped ahead.
Oh, we skipped that. Okay.
Consented on skipping.
Oh, okay, I'm at 100,000.
So may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor state so by saying aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Consent bids and purchases over 100,000. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearing. Proposed ordinance number 21-027. Was this tabled? No, ordinance number 21-028 and ordinance number 21-029. And may I also have a motion to remove item 8C from the table.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Ordinance 21027, an ordinance of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, approving the abandonment of a 119-foot long segment of the 57-foot wide Southeast First Avenue right-of-way extending from the FEC Railroad right-of-way to Southeast Third Street. Authorizing the city manager to execute a disclaimer which shall be recorded with this ordinance in the public records of Palm Beach County, Florida, and providing an effective date. Ordinance 21028, an ordinance of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending ordinance 8938 by amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan for property commonly known as CLM apartments and described herein, changing the land use designation from medium density residential to high density residential, providing for conflict severability and an effective date. Ordinance 21029, an ordinance of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending ordinance 02013 to rezone a parcel of land described herein and commonly referred to as CLM apartments from multifamily residential to IPUD infill plan unit development, providing for conflict severability and an effective date.
So I'll ask the commission if they have any questions or comments. I know the one that I had was to make sure that electric charging station was included as part of the requirements.
I support that.
And can I just get confirmation?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Bradley Miller of Urban Design Studio here representing the applicant. That's an acceptable condition. Actually, I think it's part of the code that we have to accommodate that.
Good, even better. Yes, Commissioner Katz? There's 3 buildings total in this project, right? 2 existing and then 1 to be new. Is the commitment for a single charging station or 1 at each building? Just to get clarification on the request and the.
It's actually something I did discuss with staff. It's interesting of how those are set up. Let's use the example of 1 for every building. And I don't think it's specified as to whether those spaces are reserved for those, which if there are no electric cars being used there, it takes 3 parking spaces away. I'll say, let me say 2, because I think how they can be set up is that there can be 1 station that serves 2 spaces.
And it's up to the landlord to monitor that.
And then it's a management thing, correct?
Whereas they would know if there's a car that needs the electrical versus no cars that need the electrical at that time. Okay. And so I'll open up to public comments. I believe we do have some. Sheila Russo has her hand raised. That was a while ago. Yuri, are you there?
Yeah, she did, and seems to have left.
Yes. So I would ask that next time, if
I don't necessarily read the chat very often, so, because it's just a little bit blip. So if someone has ways that you would let me know by calling over the PA system.
Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt during administrative since the hand was raised kind of randomly during administrative, that's all.
Okay. And so it seems like we have someone from the audience that has public comments. And I'm going to give you this to Vice Mayor to work.
Oh, boy.
So I'll be there for you. So you hit clock timer.
Clock timer?
Nope, nope, that's not clock timer. And then you'd hit start once he begins. All right.
Go ahead. Before I speak, I just want to know, is there a chance, it's pretty complicated. I understand it, but I just want to be crystal clear that the city attorney could just clarify. I know we're talking about land, we're talking about a site preparation, we're talking about development, we're talking about changing from medium to high density. I mean, there's a lot here. And, you know, as usual, what I don't understand when you come, all right, so you started the timer anyway. You guys don't give up. You really don't. I got to tell you, you're such a good team. You really are. And that's why when all these projects come up and you have to notify people 400 or 500 feet away, nobody ever comes here because they don't want to be subject to the way people like me are treated, disrespected. You know, you smirk. And in my opinion, you get over on the public and you use out-of-town law firms to really reap havoc on people who live here and pay taxes and want to be represented. But no, you bring in all these high-powered people, you're all on first-name basis, and nobody wants to account for anything. The city manager won't talk to anybody. The city attorney won't talk to anybody. The commissioners won't talk to anybody. You just all hooked up with your friends, your associates, and every time we come here, and it says in the meeting that we're going to talk about, that the commissioners have to talk about possible conflicts and other things that you have, you never address that. You never address it. And how clear can it be? You know, I mean, come on. This law firm from Fort Lauderdale or whatever, you know, everything you're doing, you're bringing in out-of-town everybody, out-of-town lobbyists, out-of-town lawyers, out-of-town builders, out-of-town developers. You keep tossing around this thing about low density, medium density, high density. Give them some land, give them some CRA money, give them this, give them that. If they build an electric station, then they don't have to have the required parking. I mean, when is it going to end? It's going to end when this mayor leaves and two of you leave, and hopefully the city law firm leaves, and maybe the city manager leaves. Maybe then we can get somewhere and get some respect. And I don't appreciate a lot of your comments, you know, that you think your projects are the promised land. And Mr. Katz says, oh, we're the most educated people here. You know, the two commissioners. You think you're the most educated people here? Do you really, Mr. Smirk? I don't think so. You're far from the most educated person here.
I said we were teachers and public educators. I'm sorry that we're teachers.
Is there anyone else from the public would like to speak on these items? Seeing none, I close the public comments. Jim, do you want us to, oh, we do have.
If I could make one comment to that. I don't know if he was referring to me as a lawyer or not, but I'm not. I'm a land planner. And I just closed up my office here for the approach towards a longer step towards retirement. I couldn't be prouder than be a business owner here in the city of Boynton Beach, and especially when your commission, as well as the one prior to you, have turned this city around. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Want us to vote individually, or can we vote on all three at one time?
No, sir, you need to vote individually first on ordinance 21027.
Vice Mayor, if we could just make sure that there's no one online who has any additional comments before we close
Okay,
that
is there
out.
anyone online, John, that have their hand raised?
At the moment, we do not have any hands raised or questions asked.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I have a motion for 21-027?
So moved.
Been moved and properly second. Any further comments by the board? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay.
This is a roll call.
Individual.
Roll call on this one? Sure. Okay, roll call.
Vice Mayor Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus,
Yes.
Commissioner Pensurga.
Yes.
Votes 4-0.
And now on ordinance 21-028.
Can I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and second. Any further comments from the board? All in favor, say aye. Oh, well, we have to have a roll call.
Vice Mayor Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Katz, Commissioner Romulus,
Yes.
Pensurga.
Yes.
The vote's 4-0.
The final ordinance is ordinance 21-029.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And second. Oh,
For moving properly second. Any further comments from the board?
none.
All in favor,
Roll
signify
call.
by saying aye. Oh, what?
Roll call.
I-
Commissioner
I
Katz,
wanna go home.
Commissioner
Sorry,
Romulus,
just you came on. Yes, me. Yes.
Commissioner Pensurga.
Yes.
Aye.
Votes 4-0.
Mayor, the final item on this group of items is the approval of the major site plan modification. That needs to be by motion seconded, and that does not require a roll call, but only a voice vote.
Motion to approve 8C.
Second.
Okay, and further discussion by the board? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Approved unanimously. Moving on to D, proposed ordinance number 21-030.
This is an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 4, entitled Purchasing and Consultants, Section 2-56C, is hereby deleted in its entirety and replaced with a new Section 2-56C to amend the process to dispose of city-owned real property, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. And at the Commission's direction, at first reading, there was an amendment shown on page 2, line 77, which changed the threshold amount from 500,000 to 100,000. And also the following that same pattern on line 80 and 81.
Okay. And
This would require a motion to adopt ordinance 21-030 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
it's been moved and second. Any further discussion about the amendment modification? Hearing none. All in favor?
Vice Mayor, let's just check and see if there's anybody that wants to speak on that second reading.
Anybody in the audience like to speak on this one? Someone in the audience will you please come forward?
Ernest McNolly, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach, Unit 407. It's a condominium down the road. Again, I'd like to say that I find it odd when you get to second and third readings and you need to vote and approve things, that we're in a community of 80,000 people. And that when you want to do things and you send out flyers and questionnaires, you get 350 back in English, one in Spanish, and one in Creole. If that doesn't make a statement about how alienated, suppressed, denied that the public feels here, the taxpayers, people like me, for a little condominium, I pay $5,000 a year. And what are you doing? You're taking my view, you're taking my fresh air, you're taking my parking, you're creating noise and crime. and I say corruption. And we can't figure out where you're spending all our money because it's always on these deals. Now, if you look in the news today, if you follow what's going on in Surfside, Florida, it is so similar to what's going on in Boynton Beach. Isn't it interesting? After 5 months, they only allowed the world's premier building collapse specialist near the property. After the building collapsed, turns out the mayor has a property that's condemned. The building inspector, who declared the building safe, took a leave of absence, and his records seem to have disappeared. Now today, we find out that that building they built next to Surfside was part of a spot zone regulation where a board like this in that town approved the new building to be moved closer to the existing building. And in exchange for that approval, like you say, all these people sound so caring here. You know, oh, I'm not a lawyer. Really? Well, what did they do? For 10.5 million to Surfside, they were allowed to move the building closer, right, to the one that collapsed and build higher. And when they built it, they damaged the foundation on that building and killed 98 people. And it's coming out now. But you know something? Every time I'm in these meetings and I hear the deals you're making, 3 million here, don't worry, CRA, we bought it. We're going to donate this land. We're going to give this away. CRA is buying this. Look what you're doing to this city. You're turning it into a high-rise dive.
Thank you, sir, for your comment.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this item? John, do we have any raised hands?
Vice Mayor, this is Yuri. We do not have any raised hands or questions at this time.
Okay, we'll close comments at this time. Any further comments from the board?
Sure.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Roll call, please.
Oh, roll call on this one. Okay.
Commissioner Ramos? Commissioner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Aye.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Vote is 4-0.
I'd like to ask the question of legal. When we're talking about these items, unless the audience has a question directly related to these items, is it okay to shut them down?
Mayor, all comments with respect to any agenda item should be directed to the subject matter of the agenda item. And it would be appropriate and authorized by the chair to interrupt a speaker when they're not speaking to the issue before the commission, which is the given agenda item.
Thank you, Jim. What I'm asking for, because unless you're asking a question or making a statement about the item that we're discussing of getting ready to vote on, public audience is where you make your comments. That's not on the agenda. When we're discussing these items, when you come up, those comments are to be related to the item at hand. Okay? Thank you. Moving on, proposed resolution number R21-175.
Motion to approve.
Have a second? Been moving properly second. Do we have any further comments from the board?
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Just again, a thank you to Commissioner Romulus and staff for working for what I believe is about 5 years and change almost to get to this point so that the residents who live in these areas have as low cost possible a solution to the vegetation overgrowth that occurs in their canals. So thank you all for your efforts and the time you've put in.
Just a reminder that you did already implement the process of the assessment and collection. What this resolution does is it converts it from the city having to send out bills and collecting it to it appearing on next year's tax bill. So it's automatically collected along with ad valorem taxes.
Very good.
It's in time to do it this year for the previous action, but the bills have gone on and the funds are being collected.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Katz, for acknowledging that. And also, Jim, thank you for all your hard work on that. And you know, one of the things that I would say is just important to note is that from the feedback that we got from the residents who live in this area, it seems from those who participated, at least in the survey, all but one were in favor of this. So I am in favor of moving this resolution forward, and thank you to this board and to our city staff and attorneys from wherever they may have their main offices be. Thank you for their support on this.
Upstairs on the 4th floor.
Yes, sir. That's right. So moved if there wasn't a motion already.
Any further comments from the board? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this particular item, R21-175? You have a question about R1-175?
I'm only here for question, not for comment.
No, I want you to speak on R21-175, the one that we're talking about right now, not just general question.
I understand. So, and the one
Public
that,
audiences for that.
and the one that we're talking about is about,
This is your opportunity to ask you don't have a question?
no, I do, but what I'm saying is, in public meetings, is it too much to ask that you just, before someone comes up to ask questions or to clarify about exactly what you're going to vote on, that you use the city attorney to make a quick overview? I mean, it's done everywhere. I go to meetings all over the country. And every time I ask you to do that, which would help me stay focused, you just start the timer and you don't do it. So can the mayor, are you talking about the canal thing now?
Yes, sir. The canal thing.
The canal thing, okay. Can
You have a
you,
question, sir, or do you not have a question?
yeah, I do.
Okay, what's your question?
Is this about the overgrowth coming in from the county and other places into the canals here?
Regarding the creation of a special assessment to be collected on the annual tax bill to pay for canal aquatic maintenance services for Lake Eden and the 4 canals and Lake Shore Haven Canal area.
Okay, so
It's on the agenda. It's stated as such on the agenda, and there's
that's
backup,
right.
and there's backup in the
Okay,
agenda.
so here's my question. Wasn't this the one where someone who lives in the area and is getting assessed said to this board, isn't this pollution coming from a certain lake outside of the county, into the county, and then into Boynton? And then you all voted on approving a cleanup for Boynton Canal based on assessment against the Boynton residents.
To be clear, the residents who live on the canal unanimously minus one resident in the community voted for this. We are approving it as a course of business, but every resident affected but one asked for this and voted for this.
I appreciate that. So my question is this: does that mean that the one is categorically wrong? Because can I tell you something? That one person who came in here, I thought that person was excellent and he made a good point. And my comment and question is, didn't the mayor actually say after you voted that, hey, wait a minute, maybe you're right. Maybe the assessment shouldn't go against you. Maybe next year we'll go after the county who caused the pollution. We'll go after them for the money. But right now, we forgot to ask you up before you voted. Am I correct? Wasn't that the meeting?
The mayor's not here, so he couldn't answer.
Listen, you know the guy that was here, and the guy was pretty factual, and I still have some time. So my question is, isn't this the case where the one person talked about how the pollution is coming from the county and that the state and the county are responsible for the cleanup, and that you all voted, well, that may be the case, but we're going to assess it against the people in the canal anyway. And one person objected, the only one that came here. So for you to say that everybody wanted it, agreed to it, I don't know, what kind of country are you saying we live in? People on the canal, they want more taxes? They want to pay to clean up Lake Worth and another county's pollution coming in? Where are these people? Where are they?
Your question,
Excuse me?
your question to whether they wanted it by
Well,
virtue.
you just said they welcomed it.
By virtue of a unanimous -1 resident vote, they voted in a democracy to approve it.
They wanted it. They wanted an increase to clean
Thank
up
you, sir.
another county's pollution.
Thank you.
They're great people.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this item? John, do we have anyone online?
We do not at this time, Vice Mayor.
Hearing none at this time. We will have a roll call.
It's a resolution.
A resolution? What's a resolution? Okay. All in favor, we'll know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. Okay, that takes us down to, we've done 9A, we've done 10A. 11A. Let me ask a question to the board. Do we want to do this in the absence of the mayor? Okay.
Yeah, otherwise that means it would be pushed to January.
Okay. Item 11, new business, conduct.
Vice
annual-
Mayor, I would actually prefer that the mayor be present.
Let me get a
This is an
consensus.
annual event, so
Let me get a consensus of the board, if that's be the case.
Yeah, we each had an opportunity to submit written evaluations.
That's also true, yes.
And I feel the same way.
Agreed.
We all had an opportunity to, so I think we should move forward. Hi, Julie.
Hello there. Good evening, Vice Mayor and Commission. I'm Julie Oldbury, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management. And for the benefit of the public, we are tonight having our annual evaluation of our city manager, Lori Laveria. And at this time, I will turn it over to the commission to take any action you deem appropriate.
Do we have any comments from the board members on this, who would like to start? Okay.
Vice Mayor, I can start.
Commissioner?
So, as you may have noticed, I've actually declined to submit an evaluation, a written evaluation to the city manager. That is not a reflection of her duties or her performance. That is a reflection of the fact, as I have complained previously in the past, that I don't believe that the form that we've been using is a good metric of an evaluation system. Some of the questions that are on that form, none of us are in City Hall long enough to properly assess these metrics. So, I've complained about that in the past privately. I don't think this is a good rating system, and we need to come up with a new system. So until such time that we come up with a new system, I will not be using it.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Mm-hmm.
Any other commissioner want to speak on that?
Sure, I'll speak.
Mr. Romulus?
I don't use the evaluation form simply just because I don't have time. I apologize, but I always tend to just make my comments publicly in favor of using the form. And my comments, simply what I want to say is, over the last 6 years, having worked with Lori and having gone to numerous conferences and interacted with numerous city leadership and understanding the caliber of what our city manager brings to the table and what our city has been able to do over a short period of time under her leadership, I believe is just astounding. So my comments from a couple commission meetings ago when I called her a badass still stand. I think that's what she is. And I've gotten the privilege to know her not only in this capacity as the city manager, but on a professional and personal capacity, as well as my leadership Palm Beach County classmate, and have just gotten to see her heart towards public service, her dedication
towards being ethical and standing for what's right and just delivering and executing when it's necessary, even when no one's looking. That's what Lori does. So I also just, stand with her as the only other female up here on this dais, because we do pretty amazing things as women and as mothers and as all that. And she represents every aspect of that in her life and brings excellence to it all. So I think we're privileged to have her as our city manager. It's clear and obvious the testament of her leadership here in our city. And I can't speak anymore to her praises because that would take us for the rest of the night. But all in all, I just want to give her a 5.5 out of 5 because I think she deserves it. And when we get to the discussion about her salary, I'll make my remarks on that then. But I know that as a city, we are privileged to have her. And, at this point in time, because of her work, we have become a beacon of change here as a city in Palm Beach County and in the state. We've become a standard for other people to look to and follow our example, not only in the redevelopment of our downtown, but now in our initiatives towards equity and inclusion and diversity. And all of that has been done under her tenure. So I can't, like I said, I could keep going because if I keep going, there's more to say. But Lori is a tremendous city manager, and I've appreciated the years I've had to work with her, and I hope we continue to work together even when I'm not in office for the betterment of Boynton Beach and for our residents all across Palm Beach County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Cat.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I'd agree. We've had the good fortune, those of us who've been up here for the past 6 years, to have one city manager. If you look to Delray to the south, they have had many city managers. The turnover has been annual. If you look to the school district has had 6 superintendents in the past decade. There is a cost associated with failed leadership or poor leadership, and that turnover and that cost is a brain drain. You lose talent. People don't want to stick around. Teams don't get a chance to gel and solidify and achieve their potential professionally. And the continuity, which is a byproduct of the quality of leadership, is demonstrably beneficial to the city. Issues crop up in any leadership position. If the issue is not the direct fault of the leader, you judge that leader by how they respond to the issue. And we have had issues over the years, as any municipality would, or $250 million organization would. And I've been satisfied with the responses to those issues because, as I said, you can't judge a leader by every employee's action, but you can judge them by how they respond to those actions when they've gone off course. And we have strong leadership. We have a strong leadership team, as evidenced by the continued improvement by virtue of people defecting from other municipalities to come to Boynton Beach and bring their talents and their advanced degrees to make our utilities better, or our development department better, our management team better. It's just, as I said, I've seen it. I'm integrally involved in the school district, and if we had 6 city managers in the past decade, like the school district has 6 superintendents, lots of the things that we have accomplished would never have happened. So I'm proud of her leadership. I'm proud of her friendship. And I look forward, after my time, continuing to watch her work up here with the next commission to build on the progress of the past 6 years.
Very good. I concur with the comments that have been made. I can say that I worked with Lori probably longer than any of you up here. I've been working with Lori since 2007. I was very instrumental in getting her involved and full time. And I watched her grow over the years. And one thing I can say about Lori, as evident of the new employees recently that's been employed here at the city, is that she shows great leadership. She not she doesn't back away from tough decisions. When we had situation in our city, she made the tough decision to bring us together and move us forward. I watched her delegate authority. She's not one to look over your shoulder. She gives you a job and expect you to do it. If you just look at the recent, I think it's Puna, yeah, that just came from West Palm Beach. I've heard nothing but good things about her, and yet here she is wanting to work with our city and our city manager. That showed the kind of leadership that she possessed. And let me also say that I've noticed growth in community relationship. The people have received her well. She goes to meetings. I noticed that anytime there's a meeting that she can go to, whether it be at Carolyn Sims Center or even Village Royale or wherever, if you ask her to come, she doesn't turn it down. The community has accepted her, and I'm just proud to have her as our city manager. There are other cities that I've talked to, they tease me when I go to League of City meetings and other types of meetings that, hey, if you guys don't want her, we'll take her. Okay. But Lori is a great person outside of the city. She's just a good-hearted person, and she's not afraid to make tough decisions. So with that kind of leadership, we can't do anything but go to the top. So I support everything that's been said, and now we'll discuss what Commissioner Romulus just brought up. What do we want to do for Lori? You want to be the first one to
Sure.
lead that discussion?
Absolutely. So being that we've gone through a very tumultuous time with the pandemic and with just so much adversity that we had to face, and our fearless city manager has taken us through all that, I would propose giving her a 5% raise based on also the list of the other municipalities that we're in comparison to. I believe we've also done our work in terms of bringing her into alignment based on our city size, population size, and comparative to other cities in the county. So I'm good with where she is, and I think a 5% raise would be merited.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay, and we have a second. And a discussion by the board.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'm comfortable with the 5%, not because I don't think good things were done. They were. But when I look at this chart, when you look at these other organizations, Boca and West Palm, they're twice the number of employees to manage. I think 5% is too much. I don't even think this is a really good time for raises at the highest levels. So I'm not going to support 5%, but I'm outnumbered, and that's okay.
Well, you're not outnumbered yet. I haven't stated my position.
This is true.
I'm of the opinion that I agree with the 5%. However, based on the fact that it is a pandemic area, I think a 4 would be more in line with what I would want to support, based on the fact that we need the kind of leadership she has provided, and we gave our employees, I believe we gave our employees 3%. No, we gave it was 4. General population was 3. Okay, SCI, it was 4. So based on that, I could support 4%. And
Vice Mayor, if I may reiterate my point, when you look at the data that's been provided, the city that's most comparable to us in terms of size in the full-time employees, because that's what the manager does. They manage the organization. We are more in line with Delray Beach. Our city manager, it's 239K. Theirs at 230K. But for us to compare ourselves higher to Boca and West Palm, their organization isn't 800 employees. It's twice as large. It's 1,700. So I'm just using my common sense. I think the comparable is Delray, not Boca or West Palm. But that is my position.
Commissioner, my comments were in terms of saying that we are in proper alignment, in terms of that we are third in terms of her salary behind West Palm and Boca. And I would never consider putting her in alignment with Delray, because Delray has, as stated by Commissioner Katz, has had almost yearly, if not more often, turnover. That should not be commensurate with her salary, because Delray is over there just trying to keep somebody for long enough to actually operate. So that being said, I'm fine and totally okay with doing the 4% if that's what the majority of the board will go with. I'm in agreement with that.
Mr. Katz.
And in the interest of moving the vote forward, because otherwise it looks like it would be a 2-2 split, I'd agree with the 4. I think that the difference is, as Commissioner Ramos pointed out, is that Delray is comparable currently, but their city manager is brand new, whereas ours has been here for a number of years. So I think the difference in the raise is indicative of the experience in the organization.
Okay. Can I have that 4% in a motion?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay.
Nay, or technically no.
Motion passes 3-1. Okay.
Vice Mayor, may I say a word?
Yes.
Firstly, thank you. For people to be successful, those who they work for, like with our team, you have to empower them and give them the opportunity and support and resources and the tools and everything that they need to be successful. And you have to want them to be successful. I've worked for a commission for all the years I've been here. I've served almost 9 years as your city manager and another 1.5 years as your interim city manager. And we collectively, not just Lori, have been able to be successful as an organization because we've had an elected body that wants us to be successful. That isn't out, wanting to not see that. So without that, I couldn't do what I'm doing. So I thank you. And then that goes right down the organization. My job is to provide the tools and the support for our employees to be as successful as they possibly can. And they're just outstanding. I don't make this organization, they do. I just find good people to bring in and let them do their job, like you said. And but I have to thank you as an elected body. You've always supported me and given me what I need to do the best I can for you and for Boynton Beach. So I thank you for that.
Very good.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, just to add to my praise of our staff beyond Lori, I do want to make sure I spotlight Andrew Mack over there and our new assistant city manager, Catherine, right? And I think there's just been such amazing continuity, even in the changes that we've had in our leadership staff as well. And again, I still think that just highlights and spotlights the leader at the top who continues to allow for people to come and be their best self in the workplace. So, unless there's something y'all not telling me, but I just feel that we have built a much better culture here in the city of Boynton Beach than what I initially found when I first started here as a commissioner. And I think that in and of itself is worthy of praise and merits, this discussion that's being had tonight. So I want to, not only praise Lori, because yes, I know this is her yearly evaluation, but also praise those who work with her. David, I'm looking at you, Mike, Adam,
Julie, like all of you guys. You guys are what makes this whole organization possible, and your leadership, continues to make this city just a bright and shining example of public service and at its best. So thank you all, and it's been an honor to work with all of you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you guys in whatever capacity in the future. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments by the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to legal 12A. Proposal ordinance number 21-031, first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 4, entitled Site Development Standards, Article 4, entitled Sign Standards, amending Section 1, entitled General, Section 2, entitled City Approval Required, Section 3, entitled Prohibited Signs, Section 4, entitled Standards, Section 5, entitled Community Design, Section 6, entitled Sign Program, Section 7, entitled Non-Conforming Signs, Section 8, entitled Signs at Abandoned Businesses, repealing certain provisions, providing for codification, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Okay. On you.
Bring up the slideshow. Mike Rump, I serve with pleasure as your planning and zoning administrator. Many years I've had a couple titles, but principally I have focused on the planning and zoning world in the city. And it's been a real pleasure to be able to focus on another major chapter of the city's land development regulations back in 2010. Staff-led effort updated the LDRs in its entirety. That's land development regulations. Due to the scope of that project, there wasn't time devoted to the sign code itself. It's very technical, and there wasn't time to do it then. It's been delayed until now. At the initiative of basically the need to focus on what additional tools we have to benefit recovering businesses, but also an opportunity to investigate the code against various complaints and issues that we have felt, received, perceived in our application processes, including our permit process. Whether that was directly from signed contractors or individual businesses, a lot of those lessons have been.
I'm sure the microphone's on, sorry.
Should I start over?
No.
Please don't.
To evaluate it against some of those things that we have heard, lessons learned over the past. Obviously, with as many years as I've been here, there are things in the back of my mind that I've seen in terms of opportunities to amend our regulations for the benefit of the community. 10, 20 years ago, when cities were developing, maturing their regulations, it was more with an emphasis on regulation and not opening up the doors to businesses. We've stepped back, taken a look at who we are as a community. What is it that we accept in terms of signage? And what is that good compromise in terms of size, in terms of color, in terms of number of signs? And right now, with businesses, with what has happened in the retail industry, struggling through the pandemic, we have a slightly different perspective upon the review. So let me jump right into it. Do I advance it or do I ask for next slide?
You can cue up the next slide.
Go ahead, next slide. Again, I've indicated, Yuri, this is the supplemental slides. You can go to the initial priority program of no more than 7 slides, which the very beginning.
Did you want me to start supplemental?
I will see searching for a different file that should be in the commission folder. I'll continue.
Gotcha.
Project targets and objectives. If you don't disregard the slides on there now, those are some supplemental slides. If we need to, we'll get into for additional examples to answer some questions that you may have. Project targets and objectives. We began looking at logos and graphics, maximum area, additional signage opportunities, options for increasing flexibility, color options, maximizing use and benefit of sign programs, which is really a priority, which and a focus, and you'll hear that several times through the presentation. Consistency with mandates, legal precedents, and issues that have surfaced that may affect our sign regulations. Some state mandates, some state involved, some nationally. Business and sign visibility, trends, needs, And of course, you looked at the relief standards to see if there is warranted changes. Summary of notable amendments. Digital, canopy, and A-frame related sign options being introduced or being expanded. Sign program flexibility. If you don't understand sign program, what a sign program is, and that's something that is required. Thank you. That is required for multi-tenant shopping centers, things like that, where we ask for an applicant or property manager to have a sign program in place. It's a little bit of their own rules, but it shows continuity, what kind of signage, size, area on the buildings, and so forth. Off-premise signage exceptions, flexibility for residential communities, and setback reduction. Let me pause there for just a second and say, please interrupt me where you'd like to, and ask any questions. There are a lot of amendments to the code. Some cleanup, some inserting some new age stuff to our sign regulations and provisions. There's quite a bit here. This is really a very condensed overview of everything, but I don't want to give you more than what you want to hear tonight. But feel free to ask any questions, and if I need to go into some of the principal changes in more detail, I can do that for you. Digital signage, we also refer to them as electronic message centers. The image you may have in your mind, and maybe you should have in your mind to get a real idea of what is an electronic sign, that might be something you would see in Orlando along I-Drive. Obviously, that's a poor example to give you, but I want you to understand that's a digital sign. Something in Vegas and New York would be, of course, out of scale in what we're talking about. And we've got provisions and regulations that are being proposed that really regulate the intensity of the light, the number of them, the types of projects where they belong, and of course, they protect our downtown and our recommendations from the CRA plan, Community Redevelopment Plan, to preserve appearance and things like that. Canopy or body signs are being introduced, which have not been allowed. Blade signs, as well as flat metal canopy signs, either being introduced or the percent. And understand the maximum signage that's allowed on a project is based upon two things. One, the wall sign, maximum area is based upon the linear distance or length of a bay or a building. Or a site sign, a monument sign, for example, the area of that is a factor of the code, the type of size of the project, type of roadway it sits on. Now, when I say modifying or discounting the amount of sign area that a certain sign contributes toward the maximum, that's what I'm talking about. So for example, if I say we introduce a flat metal canopy sign, the example is at our very entrance of this building. We didn't have provisions for that. And if I say that we are discounting its proportion of or what it allocates to the maximum, it means just that. Whereas accounting 100% of that area, instead of doing that, it is either no, it does not allocate toward the maximum, or it's a percent of the maximum. And that involves canopy body signs, the valence signs on the canopy, as well as those flat metal, the blade signs. For example, a blade sign is something that sticks out from a building facade underneath an arcade where you'd walk along in front of different businesses. And if that is not oriented toward a roadway and it's mainly designed for pedestrians, it would not count toward the maximum. This is to encourage and not have our own codes inhibit the ability to place and utilize these additional sign provisions. A-frame signs. We've had many questions, and a lot of times businesses put them up to survive. And even though our code does not allow them, they do it anyway. For example, like I said, just to get additional signs. And we're introducing some A-frame sign regulations, provisions for local businesses. Sign program flexibility. Most importantly, the sign program until now, until these provisions are adopted, it essentially says that the sign program must adhere to all of our standard sign standards. Number of signs, size of sign, type of sign, colors, and so forth. We propose to change that so that there's greater flexibility from a business or property owner or developer to propose something that may be better than our own standards. As long as it passes some of our basic criteria that is in the sign code, staff can approve it. And that really should prevent a lot of the nitpicking and if a sign is 1 square foot over the maximum, or if it's not located in the building where it should be. It allows, the county has something called a betterment landscape plan. That means a landscape architect can come in and submit a landscape plan to the county that deviates from the standards, but it could be better. And it recognizes the professionalism of a landscape architect to do something that may deviate from the confines of a code. That's kind of what this provision would do. It allows for a better sign program or plan against its own, for its project. Off-premise sign exceptions. The best example is if you have hidden industrial areas in the city. They were not developed as a planned district like Quantum, which has big signs at major intersections. It has major frontage on an arterial roadway like Gateway. There's industrial pockets that don't have that kind of frontage. The reason that the city supported brewery district signage is most of those are off the beaten path and you wouldn't know they were there. It's kind of that concept. Those are small signs. This allows basically site signage at those principal entrances on a collector or arterial roadway where those tenants could come together, coordinate, and I've discussed this with our economic development staff who will help me kind of promote this and organize these efforts and educate these businesses with these opportunities. So it allows an exception to the off-premise signage requirements of our traditional code in order to motivate that. Electronic signs, again, we propose standards that would regulate the sign intensity, that would require a sign to be programmable, that would be sensitive to the lighting, ambient lighting, so that even though, I mean, that lighting is set at a certain standard, whether it's lumens, whether it's watts, whether it's nits, whether it's, won't get into physics, but when it gets dark, if that machine, if that electronic reader board does not modify its intensity, it's going to seem even brighter at night. So they're actually programmable so that they are a factor. The illumination is a factor of the ambient lighting, right? That prevents something that's glaring, that stands out, that's a nuisance. In fact, the first monument sign that the city put up eventually did get some complaints of neighbors because of the glaring effect. It was overly intense. If you've been here a few years, remember when Lake Worth put up its billboard at the water plant on 95, you could literally see it 5 miles down the road and you just saw this bright light that looked like kind of a sunburst. But it was modified. It isn't like that any longer, and it got adjusted. Modern technology allows these to be manufactured and has the ability to calibrate them. It would not be a flashing sign. Our regulations require the amount of time it takes for a new message to come out and the amount of time it takes to leave. So it cannot play around and kind of play that game of somehow getting that sign, lettering or object to move and flitter and so forth, or dance across the screen. I've done quite a bit of traveling over the past couple of months in the Tampa area, West Coast, down in Miami, and it's exposed me to a lot of these digital signs, electronic signs that we don't see in the immediate area, which has helped formulate some of these standards regulations. I have reviewed recommendations from the International Sign Association. I've looked at various sign codes of other cities that have instituted these provisions, and there's really some common characteristics. They're all, although they might have the exact same standard, but they all kind of have the same categories that they regulate. And it is in line with the American Planning Association, which also recognized the recommendations from the International Sign Association. Also, in terms of how it can regulate its impact, it must be on a conforming sign, with the exception of a sign that may not meet the setback. It is not allowed on a sign which is too high or too large, or is not designed like the monument sign that our code now allows. It's kind of an incentive. Someone would like to introduce a sign, electronic sign to their monument sign. It would not be allowed on a wall sign, but on the monument sign, it may encourage them to follow some provisions to increase the compliance of that sign in our city. Other amendments, I call those the honorable mention. Next slide. Speeding up sign reviews. There's provision to do that so that if there isn't a sign program in place, a new business comes to town and we experience this. These are not creative brainstorms. We experience these problems, and this is good timing. 500 Ocean, when they were populating their businesses with the new restaurants, the restaurant would come in and the sign that they proposed did not comply with the sign program. Right now, the code reads, a new business that cannot come in and submit for a permit if the sign program is in place or if it doesn't comply with the sign program. This provision will allow that sign to be reviewed concurrent with the review of a sign program. Removing murals, differentiating murals and signage, because that is really to be reviewed under a different program that you're all working on. Exempting municipal signs from these general provisions, exempting historic and art plaques. Obviously, those are reviewed or processed under different regulations, and they're not business signage. And expanding prohibited site elements. Also, there's cross-referencing inner sign code to the overlay zones, again, to help recognize recommendations that have come down from the community redevelopment plan for the downtown districts. Again, next slide, more amendments, just briefing these additional ones. Adding exemption for illuminated signs in residential areas. We experienced something recently with a church that wanted illuminated sign, but could not because it's in a residential area. Allow planting exception for urban signs. We've recently experienced perhaps some rigidity in our landscape regulations for signs, and we're addressing that. Exempting certain special event signage from sign maximums because they're only temporary signs. Exempting blade signs from maximum sign area. I touched upon that a moment ago. And of course, referencing an emergency period. Yes.
Excuse me, if I could interrupt you for just one moment. That first bullet point, exemptions for illuminated signs in residential areas. There is a church in my district who has requested to put up an illuminated sign. What could you go into a little bit more? What exactly is the solution there? I mean, we don't want to put illuminated signs and face it at people's windows, but is there a solution, and what did you come up with?
Sure, the solution is pretty simple. And of course, it requires the exemption to be for those non-residential uses, which are on the perimeter of the residential area, not right within. Then there is less impact. It requires that institutional or non-residential use to be on the arterial or collector roadway at the perimeter. Well, most likely along such roadway corridors, you have other non-residential businesses, other commercial businesses that have illuminated signs. So it's not an oddity. And also, when you're on the perimeter, you have less chance of impacting a single family or low intensity zoning district.
Could they just make it perpendicular? So not facing the houses, but perpendicular to their view?
That we want
this way the light isn't facing at anyone's window, but rather just the, you know.
Most businesses want that sign to be visible from both directions. So if you do that and put it away from the area, it is less visible until you get closer
perpendicular to the road, which would be visible for everybody driving. Does that make sense?
Yes, but, well, yes. In this case, this does solve that problem, since that church would be allowed to have it there, since they're not tucked away in the residential area.
Yep.
And it's a sure thing not to prevent impacts, or to prevent impacts on the residential area. A very good question. That is one that I would have asked about myself too, as someone was quickly reading through these bullets. Post-approval, next slide. Our work is not finished with this, as if it were to be adopted or adopted with amendments at second reading. This is really a start of some work. Staff will continue to promote the ultimate changes to the business community. Unfortunately, or well, fortunately, perhaps, the low comments that we've received from the business and sign industry here in the area has been very low. Whether there is not something that's real objectionable, but in any case, we will attempt to continue to promote the ultimate changes. We plan for assisting with business coordination, as I mentioned earlier, where it's fitting. The electronic message centers are new. It's new technology, and we'll be watching this closely. So there's going to be a review period or assessment period as these regulations get utilized. And we'll see how they perform, see if the objectives are achieved, see if it has the same impact, and receive comments from the users. Work with the CRA staff to implement the A-frame program we'd like in the downtown and other areas in the city. Amend other LDRs for consistency, whether it be in the landscape code, whether it be in the definitions, to update in accordance with new signage and terms and definitions. And orienting our own staff. Basically educating staff on the new technology being allowed, and the pendulum shift with respect to the signed program provisions to be ready to evaluate something that may come in that we're used to having strict conformance with our codes, but to see if it basically complies with the intent of our regulations to allow greater flexibility and business visibility. And that, with the exception of a final slide, which lists numerous sources. Next slide. That concludes my brief overview, and I can go into any of those major changes in more thorough explanations, particularly electronic message centers. But I'll pause now and and let you ponder that and ask any questions you may have.
Commissioner Katz.
I don't have any specific readings on the first or any specific questions on the first reading. It's not a question, but my only comment will be that I appreciate, and you stated as much, that this is built for flexibility. It's built for accommodations, because there are not 5 examples of environments where signs exist. There might be 500 based on little changes in where it is, where it faces, what type of business, residential, commercial, et cetera. I like, and I think this is what the impetus was going back to when this topic was brought up long ago, to create maximum flexibility. And I from what I've read, and I'm not a sign expert, nor do I desire to become one, but you certainly have come off as one tonight, and I appreciate that. You guys seem to have considered almost everything that I could conceive. So I appreciate, what's before us. And second reading, I might have some questions or things like that. But right now, I don't see anything that concerns me as much as it impresses me that the depth of knowledge that you and whoever else contributed to this have acquired to make this as business friendly as possible.
Commissioner Ramos?
Right. Commissioner Katz kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say, you're the only one who can actually make sign ordinances sound exciting, Mike. And you're like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I have no questions. As long as this allows for our community to continue moving forward, and our residents and business community especially to be able to show what they need to show to consumers and people to see who they are and what they do. I'm in support of that. So thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Mike, are we doing anything with the flag signs? Are they being considered at all? Are we going to? The reason I ask, because I get questions from some new businesses about increasing the length a little more than what we allow. Are we considering anything about the feathered flags or not?
No proposed changes with the feather banners. There has been a question on our flag regulations, because sometimes businesses incorporate a flag into it for advertising purposes, because sometimes it's under the radar. But another chapter of our zoning regulations address those types of flags by number of poles and sizes and things. But no, there is no proposed changes to regulation of feather banners.
Okay, thank you.
And so I'm sorry for missing most of the presentation. Part of the issues that I heard in the past was corner, locations that have the ability for 2 signs. Are we allowing them extra signage? Or because before they were trying to only given the arterial roads and not necessarily the entrance, are they giving the leeway to have bigger signs for normal signs on both sides of the corners?
Sure. Most likely that's a larger project. That could be a larger mixed-use project, or residential project, commercial or mixed-use project. And they would fall under eligibility of having a sign program. And they could propose to us how it works and justify it for visibility reasons.
Okay. And let's say that was 10 years ago and they want to change that. How would they change that?
Change the sign program?
Yes.
Submit it as a minor site plan modification request.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I missed what we had established for human signs.
That's probably one of the biggest regulatory addition to this versus the other increasing flexibility and provisions and so forth. It's probably the one that really is falling under a structured regulation of something in the city regarding signage. And we believe we have walked a good line of compliance with free speech regulations, and in the benefit of promoting safety and some type of control and guidelines that our staff, our field staff, can have, where something should have a closer look for compliance with visibility issues, distraction issues. So it needs to be on the property where it is for the business it's promoting. No waving of objects, no using of instruments to raise something up higher. It needs to be held in the hand. Again, preventing distractions that it may be to passing motorists or pedestrians.
And so, as you mentioned on the property, so like we have many arterial roads where the sign for the commercial establishment is less than, let's say, 100 feet away, you're saying that they only are allowed to be on their property, not on an arterial road, 100 feet away?
No, what it really meant was it needs to be affiliated with the business that is in close proximity to. We don't have a dimension, but they could be they could be near the sidewalk as long as it's not blocking the sidewalk. So it could be off the private property in the right of way as long as it's complying with the other requirements.
Okay, so I mean, the big one that I had would be, Cafe Frankie's, on the corner of Ocean and Federal. Would this allow the sign to be there if they get it? And would a human sign need to be permitted?
There isn't a permit process for a human sign. It just needs to comply. And we have these regulations, so in the event that we need to take action on something that is a distraction, not in compliance, we have these to fall back on. But it's not something that we actually review and issue a permit for.
So is that the only sign that you do not need a permit for?
No, you do not need a sign for a political sign or real estate sign, things that meet certain size standards.
Okay. Temporary in nature, so to speak.
Correct.
The questions from the commission?
And would you permit me just to ask one question?
Yes.
This, just because I won't have a chance before the first meeting in January. If somebody wanted to put, say, a big blue, go big blue sign in their front yard.
No permit required.
Would there be a reason for them to do that?
Not between now and January.
Okay. Mike went to University of Michigan.
Okay.
That I've been wearing with pride these days.
For this.
All right.
I think Adam and I will say go Canes.
You guys make
Next
a goal
year.
this year?
Next year.
Hey, don't come for me.
I don't know. So, Michael, thank you for your presentation. I'll ask if anyone online would like to raise their hand, ask a question or make a comment. I believe we have someone from the audience.
Hi, Ernest McNally, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach, Unit 407. I live in the middle of Signville. So I'd like to say that everything that you're talking about is going to impact everything that I do. Every window I look out, every street that I drive on, my neighborhood, everything, church, parks. And when I listen to this presentation of what you all seem to be getting ready to approve, I mean, is there any control? Is there any public input? I mean, come on, look what you're doing to the streets out here on Ocean Avenue. How do you take an intersection and paint it with all kinds of signs and paint? And I can't find any permits. You paint over handicap spots, you paint over crosswalks, and then you make signs that are like 700 feet tall with rainbows on them. I mean, how many statements do you want to make? And why is that? Why is it certain statements you want to make with signs and others you don't? You want now massage parlors and human services in neighborhoods? Well, what are you turning this into? I mean, really, and you know, the people that are leaving, they think everything's funny. You're creating high density high rises. You're destroying this city. Now you want to put signs everywhere, blinking signs, moving signs, paint everything. Where do you get all these approvals to paint streets rainbow? Where does that come from? I can't even see the crosswalk. And then you got something on Federal and Ocean. It's 700 feet high. It's a rainbow colored something. Who got that permit? And why? What do you think is so funny, Mr. Katz? You agree that you call that public art? You know what I call it? I call it reverse discrimination. How's that? What?
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I call it. You know, there's a lot of lifestyles living in Boynton Beach. Why is it we can have a rainbow and we can't have a nativity scene? Explain that to me.
I call it Edward Scissorhands.
What's funny?
We're listening to what you say.
I don't mind. No, listen, I don't mind. I still have 13 seconds.
That's right, you do.
You wait, I filed an Oprah. I'm gonna find out how you painted that intersection. And I'm gonna find out how you did that 700 high sign on Federal and Ocean. And why are you gonna keep approving all this junk?
Mayor.
You'd like to have a comment? Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question for Mike, and this is in regards to the new legislation passed by our state legislature regarding not preventing any home-based businesses from having any differentiation from other businesses. Does that account for this sign? Like, how does that account into this sign conversation? Are homes gonna now be able to display signs in their communities? How does that work?
Are you ready to go on to the next item?
Yes, that's the next item.
Oh, dear God. Okay.
And we'll answer that question.
Yeah, we get to put this one.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and second for ordinance 21-031. Seeing no further comments, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Pancirga,
Yes.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0.
Proposed ordinance 21-032.
An ordinance of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations, Chapter 1, Article 2, definitions, Chapter 3, Article 4, Section 1, operational performance standards, and Chapter 3, Article 4, Section 3D, use matrix, and notes as necessary to show compliance with and implementation of new state laws applicable to home-based businesses, providing for conflict severability, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you. Again, Mike Rump, your planning and zoning administrator. Your question is answered in this response to a House and Senate Bill number 403 that went into effect on July 1st of this year. It caught us all off guard. It's somewhat shocking and contrary to conventional zoning regulations in most cities. And it has significant preemption of our regulation of home-based businesses. Not totally, and I'll jump right to your answer, Commissioner, and that is one of the things it does not do is preempt local sign regulations. So where there are sign regulations, provisions, prohibitions for home-based business, those could remain in effect. And what this has done.
So just to clarify, because sometimes it's hard for me to read through what you're saying. You're saying.
Oh, no,
that
you didn't just say that, did you?
You're just super smart,
All right,
Mike,
no.
and sometimes I can't keep up with you. But my question is just, we're not going to start seeing random business signs in neighborhoods, right?
Right, let me back up just 1 second. I will try to speak 7th grade English. I think I was advised once we were writing something, so I'm going to target that. So currently right now, a home occupation, and take note of my terminology, a home occupation which we allow can have like a 2 square foot sign in the front of their home. It has other requirements to abide by, essentially to keep peace in the neighborhood, and essentially not to be known and recognized as a business operating in a residential neighborhood. I guess I was getting a little bit retaliatory, and this is up to you and your policy action here in accordance with staff's recommendations, but I actually recommend that sign provisions be removed because we can take away the signs on a home occupation now being changed to home-based business. We could leave it at that. And I will say, it was just really at the last minute I thought, how should we deal with signage? If the state allows us to regulate signage, prohibit signage, or what our preference is on a home-based business, then we can do that. But right now, we do allow a 2 square foot sign in a residential neighborhood for a home occupation. And the way this is drafted, it would not allow that.
Okay.
So I want to make note of that. So let me back up a little bit and say that the majority of the changes that you see in this And Yuri, I think if you'd like to bring up, since you have 12B, and I think you've got two documents. Once you bring up the proposed changes, and if you're seeing the document, which is in red text, all the changes, there's significant.
I'll bring it up in just a moment, Mike.
There's significant changes. The majority of the changes to our home occupation regulations, now being called home-based businesses, are mostly to show compliance with the new state laws. And I think a lot of those changes are harmless. We're forced to do that. Changes in typology, wording, descriptions, title. Staff proposes to make a lot of these changes to show that we are compliant, because there are 3 bullets I want to focus on that staff is trying to place some quantifiable standards on what the state is giving us as a very general requirement in terms of regulating them. For example, they say that the business must operate in compliance with the neighborhood and not to change the character of a neighborhood. What does that mean? I mean, you kind of know it when you see it, but how does staff write regulations so that our community standards staff knows how to hold them to that? And we've proposed some things. One is a modification to a standard that we currently have, and that is 20% of a home, not more than 20% of a home can be used for that home-based business. Now, that's increased significantly to 50%, and that is something that I've worked on with the city attorney's office, who's worked closely with staff on this project. We initially started out with 25%, and legal staff was very sensitive to the state's preemption. And to say something as strict as that and not something as 50%, maybe cross that line past what the state wants to give us to play with. A couple other bullets. And to state and putting some type of description, what does it mean when the statute says that the home must continue to operate predominantly as a single family residence or a residential use? What does that mean? What does predominantly mean? One of the things I thought of, so if we had staff walk into that house that a neighbor calls us on, it says, this is impacting the neighborhood. They manufacture widgets in the garage and their house is filled with boxes and they've got 10 delivery trucks a day. How does staff walk up to that residence and say, this is in violation of state statutes and our own regulations? How do we do that? So staff thought one way to write that is, if any portion of that home, which is typically required to function as a home, whether that's living area, minimum size of bedrooms per person, these are the performance standards and these are the life safety standards that our code requires for a home to be, or a kitchen. So if any of these areas are basically operated as part of the business, preventing it from being used as we all use our homes, that would be a violation. And that's an addition that we've added as well.
Mike,
Yes.
would that require having to go into the residence?
It would.
And wouldn't that open up a whole other can of worms? Because do they have to give us access into their home?
You know, this is an area that we're going to learn a lot from probably over the next year, 6 months to a year, as we see how businesses that may be operating now may expand within their homes. We're not really sure. It might be a legal question. I'm sure that's something that Mr. Temple deals with on a daily basis as terms of the boundaries that community standards staff has in a proactive nature, in a proactive sense. What is it that gives us privileges or rights to actually enter a piece of property? And is it based upon life safety issues? What is it? So we will, Jim can speak more to that, or Adam, I'm sure Mr. Temple has been confronted with that on numerous occasions. But we may have to play this as time goes in terms of, does it warrant it? Is there a life safety issue? Is it not obvious from the exterior? One of the requirements of state law is that the home from the outside must not be obviously functioning as a commercial business. So what happens inside is not covered by this unless for some reason. I think a good example is vehicles. So that garage is entirely used to operate the business and has no space to park the vehicle. Do they have space in the driveway to meet the minimum parking requirements of our code? And this, again, another area where the state statutes allows us to be a little more stringent than what we are currently in single-family properties, which we should fully take advantage of, and that is a vehicle must park on dedicated parking spaces. Right now, we don't prohibit that. A vehicle could be parked on a swale. We only require that that swale not be degraded to a point where it doesn't properly drain as it's intended to do. This actually indicates, and I've included that wording very clearly, that the vehicles must park on driveways that are technically or part of the business activity, which may be difficult to prove because it could indicate that that's a personal vehicle.
Mike, doesn't that contradict another ordinance that we created previously about allowing for car, I can't think of the exact ordinance and language, but we were trying to fix some issues in Forest Park. And so we were allowing for people to park on the side streets. It was kind of actually to help mitigate speeding through the neighborhood. So how does that now correlate with what you're saying? Because I feel like, does that not contradict a different part of our ordinances?
We allow it otherwise in the code to allow vehicles on the street. It may be up to an enforcement issue. If there becomes an issue and the business appears to be outgrowing the property, that may be something we can hold them to. But if there isn't really a business nuisance and triggering one of these standards in the code, and if we want vehicles and are accommodating vehicles on the street for whatever reason, then there's going to be a judgment call at that time as to what regulation would trump the other. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. My only drawback to this is whenever it gets into community standards, having that gray area of it's based on their judgment. I feel like that's when problems arise. Like if it's not clear and if they can just pick and choose when they follow or execute on ordinance and when they don't. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that just raises some alarm bells for me.
You could look at it as if there's really two sets of standards to comply with. You've got a city standard which may allow or restrict vehicle parking on the street. And you also have this standard which says commercial vehicles or business-related vehicles shall park not on the sidewalk, not on the street, but on dedicated parking spaces for that private property.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed that part. You're saying commercial vehicles, not just regular vehicles.
Business-related.
Business-related.
Some of them may be identified, some may not be as obviously identified.
All right.
And you also still have to comply with our truck or commercial
Yeah,
vehicle
right.
standards.
That's what I was gonna say, because that's another ordinance.
Yes.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And also, let me add, we indicated the percentage of the home, how the home cannot have space utilized for the business, which would preempt its use as part of the home. Emphasize the need for sufficient parking capacity in the driveway. So, and not allowing the signage. I'm sorry, I guess I just kind of summarized some of the things that I'd gone through. So that's really summarizing some of the additions to it. Otherwise, most of the changes are essentially incorporating verbiage, requirements, and language from state statutes. That concludes my presentation.
So one of the questions I had is that, what if somebody wants to put a billboard in their backyard? Does that count as a home-based business? If their backyard overlooks I-95 or Federal Highway?
The home-based business regulations right now are written not to allow any signage. Billboards be regulated under the sign code, and they're not allowed unless it's in compliance with the settlement agreement that we have in place.
So all billboards follow our sign code, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Your questions are scary.
And then, but it's, I guess the other thing is like, so what about raising chickens? Is that, someone puts a chicken coop in their backyard and they try to sell their eggs. Is that considered a home-based business now?
Oh, it's a thing. Legal or not.
Well, if it were a business that they actually were conducting out of their home, it would follow these guidelines in terms of not being visible and appearing as part of the business or part of the property. So it could be out of sight. And then, of course, other regulations that we have in our Part 2 of our Code of Ordinances regarding farm animals, fowl, and things like that.
So like, I know that we our ordinance say you cannot have chickens as part of a residential community. However, it does allow it on farms, correct?
Yes, which we do not have agricultural zone for, but yes.
But it's still in the code. And so unless we get rid of that agricultural zoning, people could do that.
We no longer have agricultural zoning in the city. There may be some properties that are used for tax purposes recognized by the county for tax exemption, but not technically as a agricultural use pursuant to agricultural zoning.
So the question that I have is that no one can have a farm in their backyard because we don't have any agricultural regulations.
No, I'd say, I think there's additional state laws now which are allowing personal mini agricultural or not gardens,
I
if
mean,
you will, residential gardens and personal gardens. There are provisions for that.
Okay.
I don't think it allows chickens, right? Produce, vegetables.
Yes, Commissioner Katz.
So the short summary of this for the public is that the state legislature passed a law, the governor signed ultimately, that says we cannot stop a slew of things that people currently can't do in their homes, but now because of that law are absolutely allowed to do in their homes relative to business.
To clarify, does the percentage being used for the home-based business is that still in effect?
As I indicated, it's gone from 20% as it is today in our code to 50%.
And that's, wow.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. Statute is.
Follows the language in the statute that says that can be a secondary use. So less than 50%. It's a secondary use.
Okay.
I would still like some clarification on my question I asked earlier from Adam or Jim or whomever can answer about what necessitates, like if we had, how would we even be able to see or verify if somebody is overutilizing the capacity of their home? Is there any reason that we would be entering a person's home from, just give me some clarity on that.
Good evening, Adam Temple, Development Director. Commissioner, to answer your question, our staff does follow the Fourth Amendment, and should we approach a residential property and request access to it, they can certainly refuse us access. We do have, we do have other remedies, administrative warrants, that we could seek consultation with legal if we had some probable cause, but essentially we could be refused access.
Okay, I just want to make sure, one, that we're respecting people's rights. But if the need arise, there's a proper and legally proper way to do it. Thank you for the clarity.
And so I guess then my question is, what if someone gets a permit to put a shed, so to speak, on their backyard and uses that for business purposes?
The shed's a structure. We have to comply with our regulations, whether it be zoning, building, or both.
Okay, and so they say, hey, it's just a shed, and then they put a commercial activity that doesn't meet our requirements. How are we able to enforce our, our requirements?
Let me ask to clarify, Mayor, what requirements would you be referring to that they would be not in compliance with?
Well, let's say they request to put a bathroom in the shed, so to speak, and that's kind of it. They said, this is, it's just a shed, and then all of a sudden we see that people are coming to the property to start working, and it doesn't meet any other requirements because they already got their certificate of occupancy for a shed with a bathroom, and that we somehow see people living, staying overnight and stuff like that. What recourses do we have?
Well, if it's not permitted, then it would be cited. If it were permitted to be a structure with a bathroom in it, and that's all it has was a bathroom, I would meet code. Probably we would have to see what they're doing with it, how it acts, and if somehow it crosses a line in terms of that property being used as a single family structure. I don't think with just a bathroom, we could call that some type of, raise a red flag of it being a dwelling unit and in violation of our zoning regulations.
And so then it becomes into that more difficult aspect of enforcement, because we cannot necessarily just take the word of the neighbors. We actually have to see them or monitor the property to build a case for violation administratively.
If you look at the full extent that this could allow, it could be a real nightmare. A lot of different scenarios that would be difficult to anticipate and to regulate up front. Unfortunately.
And so do we have anything in place of our ordinances regarding affidavits or anything in that sense for us to, I mean, in order to file a complaint, you have to put your name on that complaint. And so your neighbor will know that they don't like you or they think you're doing something wrong. And so that's kind of the start of the process.
And you're talking about the identification of a person who is filing a complaint against it?
Against someone who says they're operating a home-based business
Right.
without all the compliances.
Mayor, Adam Temple again. So one of the recent House bills, we're on the subject of House bills, was this new state law that requires a person's name and address if they're filing a complaint that is non-life safety or health safety in nature.
So the answer is yes. There's no one to file an anonymous complaint.
There's no more anonymous complaints essentially.
And they could say, hey, can you look at this road? And then staff could say, we can look at the road. But, you know, if they say you look at this property and then all of a sudden you look at that property, you're almost disbarred, so to speak, from filing a complaint because someone notified you of a property that they feel that isn't not in compliance. And if you check that out, then you're violating the statute. Is that correct?
Could be, yes.
Mayor, it will pit neighbor against neighbor.
Yes.
We're going to be dealing with those types of disputes.
For sure.
This is what happens when Tallahassee tries to do our job.
If I may add, as part of our process, we currently have an affidavit of a business operator of a home-based business. It basically states the rules that apply, and they sign that. So they're recognizing what they need to abide by and shows that they do understand it, and they sign it. There might be a gray area here in terms of what we can actually do in terms of approving or reviewing and approving a home-based business at this point. We'd like to do the same thing. Have these rules stated in a statement that we hand to someone, authorize them. But there's somewhat unclear wording in House Bill 4.3 that indicated we cannot require them, we can't require more of them than what we do of a home that doesn't have a home-based business. It's very, very confusing.
So let me ask this question. Let's say we find an LLC or an incorporation that uses a home residence as their principal place of business. Could we use that as evidence to send them a letter saying they need to get a business tax receipt?
That is the line that I'm saying maybe we walk close to in requiring them to go through a process, and we'll continue to, as we implement this and make sure our processes are in line with the state requirements, we will revise our affidavit or modify our approval process. That's something that we have to figure out once this gets adopted.
So I don't know if that was a yes or a no. Yeah.
Well, in a little bit, in a way, that's kind of how clear or unclear staff is right now in confronting this and reacting to this bill.
Because unless someone files a complaint that says there's a business operating here without a business tax receipt and puts their name on it, the staff is not able to go check the Division of Corporation Sunbiz by themselves.
This does not require this to be it doesn't always have to be a reactive. If it's obvious to an inspector's, a staff person's eyes that there's a business obviously visible from the exterior, then it can be looked into. It does not have to be just in reaction to a property owner.
But the issue then becomes is that if someone, we can't be proactive if somebody tells us that there's a problem.
That would be reactive. That's correct.
So it's something where we need to, I think, have a little video and using that My Civic app, which is also someone can put in their name and address, and they can file a complaint for community standards to review. But it's something where if someone has an issue and they're unable to, they resolve it on their own, they can't just say, I have a problem. And it's almost to the point where someone can call 911 anonymously still, but they're not able to cite these types of violations anonymously. And if they try to do it anonymously, and when there's a public record of them trying to be anonymous, then we can't move forward because someone could look at our records and see that we're violating the statute. Okay. So I think we have a motion or a second? And does anyone online have any questions?
I see no questions or hands raised at this time, Mayor Grant.
All right, we have someone from the audience that would like to speak.
Hi, Ernest McNally, 710 Northeast 7th Street, condo 407. This has got to be my favorite. Everything I'm hearing is so far from what is actually going on in this city. If you call the police and you say, there's somebody running a business, the customers are coming in, they're parking in our handicap, they're blocking our spots, they're going through our security, they're going over our fences. That police chief laughs about it, thinks it's funny. His firemen think it's funny, right? And this gentleman, a head of building, when someone doesn't have a building tax certificate in this city, you can't even rent your apartment if you own it. So my building has 20 units rented and no business certificates. And this building department says, oh, we can't go in. It's against their Fourth Amendment rights. What are you talking about, Fourth Amendment rights? Where do you come up with this kind of baloney?
I think you heard, if you were listening to the conversation, you have to file a complaint with your name and address.
That's exactly correct. And I do that, certainly. Why do you think
all 20 of your neighbors you filed a complaint against?
Of course I do. Ask him. And he won't investigate anything. They're building illegal marinas. They're closing off private property. And he shows up into, Fourth Amendment, they have a right. What, are you kidding me? Why don't you move your building director into my building? Let him live there.
And you live in an association, correct?
And they're the biggest violators. Listen, you know what's going on in Surfside, right? You know the final analysis is it's going to be the building department, the mayor, the council, the builders, the developers, and the owners that are responsible for killing those people.
The owners that died are responsible for their deaths?
No. The owners that were killed, right? It's because of, come on, Mayor, you're not following. Tell me you're not following what's going on.
I'm just following what you're saying.
Oh, really? How about the mayor there in Surfside? What'd they do to his building next door? They condemned it.
Sir,
Excuse me.
he's
My
yelling.
time's not up.
He's yelling.
His time's not up.
he's-
He's able to have his.
He's not following proper decorum.
No, I'm sorry.
He's
Commissioner,
yelling.
would you please allow me to have a meeting?
Okay.
He is being passionate. You're
trouble.
being passionate, right? So you
Yeah,
can be
you
passionate.
know I have trouble and I have throat cancer, so I only have a low voice or a loud voice.
I'm sorry to hear you about your cancer.
Okay,
My
so
condolences.
that's why. But I have to listen to these people talk loud. You think I like it? So, Mayor, it's out of control what's going on. This sign thing, this business thing, Mayor, your department voted no, the other department. Please don't pass this. This city is out of control.
I think you need to go to Tallahassee.
Go. You say that about everything. Really?
Thank you for your comments. And so, Mike, how does this apply to associations? Are associations able to completely be immune from home-based businesses if they so choose with their board of directors?
The state statutes does not supersede or preempt properties under HOA rule.
Okay. Or COA rules?
Correct.
All right. Well, this is not something that we are happy about, but it is something that we are doing in order to protect us from lawsuits because of the ability of the Florida statute that is preempted the city and the county from having their own home rule regarding home-based businesses. And so if there's no further comments or questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve. If you'd like, I'll pass the gavel to start it. All right, I'll pass the gavel to file the motion to approve ordinance number 21-032.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and properly second. Any further discussion from the commissioners?
I don't think there's
Board?
ever been an ordinance that none of us wanted to make a motion. This is a first. Good Lord.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor state by saying aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Mayor Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus,
Begrudgingly, yes.
Commissioner Pancirga. The vote's 5-0.
Add my begrudgingly in there.
Thank you for return of the gavel. Last is resolution 21-174, approve and authorize the mayor to sign all opioid litigation settlement documents.
Motion approved.
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And before I go, Lori, you're doing a great job as city manager. It's not easy, and we appreciate the past 6 years of all that you have accomplished here, and wish you the best of luck in the future. All right, if there's no further comments, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Glad you got your evaluation in.
Yeah.
So moved. Yeah. All that good stuff.
All right, everyone's moved. Yuri, you mind providing us with the closing?
Yes, Mayor Grant. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the City of Boynton Beach's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the City of Boynton Beach's website at boynton-beach.org. This concludes today's meeting. On behalf of Mayor Grant and all of our elected officials, the city manager, and city staff, thank you for attending today's City of Boynton Beach Commission meeting. Be safe and have a great night.
All right. Meeting adjourned.